There we go. There we go. My hair's afraid.
Stewie, that's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. Okay, I don't know. Whatever it is, it's not right on the teleprompter.
There it is. We are going to do Sting, yeah.
There's no words there. To play us out. What does that mean, to play us out? To end the show?
Yeah.
All right, go.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. And with it. I can't do it. We'll do it live. We'll do it live! Fuck it! Do it live! I'll write it, and we'll do it live! Fucking thing sucks!
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. I'm Stewie Griffin. Thanks for watching. We'll leave you with Sting and a cut off his new album. Take it away.
Do it live. So you've come back, huh, Lucky? Do you think I can shut that outside door? It's freezing cold, or I have to leave it open, huh? Do I have to leave it open? It's freezing cold out there. I guess I have to wait till you fall asleep before I can go close it. Hey, everyone. Jeff, what did Mullen do? Hey, good morning. I didn't know what happened. So I'm sorry I'm a little late, but we're going to have... I actually didn't want to do the call today because I was testy yesterday, so I figured I should take a mental break. But there's going to be a space call at 4 with Ham that I'm going to co-host, so we'll do it. We'll do it live. And it is a good reverse split. Some people can only learn by doing. And most CEOs are doers, not followers. Although then there's an interesting aspect where they do follow the crowd because they want to raise money and all that. But it's nice weather. It's just cold, and he wants to be outside and inside, outside, inside. And so me being not the strictest disciplinarian, although he's an obedient dog, I just leave the door open so it gets kind of chilly inside. Gets kind of chilly, Willie. Gets kind of chilly, Willie. Oh. All right. Well, if I do Supertramp, then this is all demonetized, which doesn't matter. I don't make any... I've never made a dime off of any of this, but I hate getting these notices saying somebody claimed copyright infringement. What I need to do is subscribe. There's music vaults you can subscribe to. I need to find one with Supertramp with an eclectic choice of stocks. Yeah, Andy. Andy, you know, I'm a little bit, I have to admit, I'm a little bit at my wits' end, rope's end. The only thing that's going to stop the theft from you, because you're looking, God, why is the stock down? Why is the stock down? It's always down. The only thing that's going to stop it is if Gary Gensler grows a pair. But I've seen him in person. He doesn't even have a pair to grow. So I think it's pretty hopeless. Now the company, in the case of GTII, to me it's the one company that continues to do things that are going to catch out the shorts. But you know what's another one? I know it's a smaller situation, but the CEO is attacking the shorts, and that's GoLogic, GOLQ. It's smaller numbers, but you just need an imbalance to make stocks go up. You don't need big numbers. I got it, Cam. Very clever, Cam. I think Cam deserves a foomph from Lucky when he's happy. I'm trying to see, this always centers on me. I'd like to get these messages on the dark part of my coat. That's all right. I can read them there as they go up there. I can put them right there on that painting, and I can read them. He can grow an apple and a pear. Hey, Gary Bale. You're enjoying these calls? I don't know. Yesterday, I snapped at somebody. On Friday, I snapped at 3 people. I tried to help Anna on her call, not that she needs help. And one guy started bloviating on why short selling is good for the market. And I overreacted because that's all hogwash. That's what they want you to think. They want that myth to go on. Now, that to be clear, in the United States, there's 4 tickets. Buy, sell short where you locate shares, where you have to pay money to borrow them. Well, then there's a balance, because that has to settle. That has to settle. Now, then you get off, as they did, into these discussions of synthetic shares and all these fancy names. Rehypothecation, which just means they're selling the same shares over and over and over and over again, which is illegal. It's illegal. Now, the fact is, my dear listeners, the fact is they do it. You know, the company that bought First Republic Bank, JP Morgan, the government paid Jamie Dimon $15 billion to take over 30 or 40 or 50 billion in assets. And the government agreed to take the bad assets onto the taxpayers' back. You're paying for it. And Jamie Dimon's smiling all to the bank. But you know what Jamie Dimon does? His bank does? They do the same crap in the precious metals market, and they do it to such a massive degree that it affects prices, and it may affect the stability of the financial system. Gold and silver. I'm trying to remember her name. Bly. That's not her name. Bly Masters. Anyway, a woman that's behind it. I think they do it in the treasury markets too. So these bankers have leveraged everything in a period of free money. And they're such geniuses. That's why they make so much money, and they add so much to the lives of Americans and people all around the world, these bankers. They've never picked up a hammer. Well, they might have bought one at the hardware store as part of a kit, or maybe their child had a little plastic one. They've never dug a ditch. They've never had to climb ladders to knock the wasp's nest out, go up and scrape it, sand it, and then put primer up, and then they've never had to do any of that. And they're so smart because they can create money out of nowhere. Guys, these big pools of money, there's two reasons why they can't do it without cheating. One, when you have that much money, it's impossible to get 7, 8, 10, 15, 20% per annum. It's impossible on the big blocks of money. Now, there's been a period here where the Feds greased the wheel and made it the S&P 6 stocks. Now I think it's just 2 stocks they buy. But the other thing that happens, you can grow, and you can do it with a company. You can grow from 100, I don't know, 100,000 to 100 million, and then from 100 million to $500 million. But when you get up in the billion range, it's really hard, unless you're catching a wave in an industry. It's really hard to make those returns over and over again. So one is the size. They just can't get those returns without cheating. The other is there's no system. There is no system that returns outsized returns, sorry to use the word twice, year in and year out. Why? Because the imitators come. It's arbitrage. They come and they nip at your heels. So let me make sure. I think this call is supposed to be at 4 o'clock. He still can't decide if he wants to go outside. He likes it when I do these calls outside, which is large part of the reason I do calls out there, because he loves it. He can sit on the deck. I put out a pillow for him, and he's in dog heaven. And I want him to be in dog heaven before he goes to dog heaven. But it's cold today, and it's going to rain, and I want you to be able to hear the hamster. Let me just make sure. Doesn't say what time. Let me just click it. 4 p.m. 4 p.m. I set a reminder to myself. So we're going to talk GTII dividend. Hedge funds have 72 hours to report losses. And the DTC 100% haircuts on letters of credit or loans between the banks. Co-hosting is Avid and yours truly. It'll be held by Busy Brands, who has done a magnificent job. There's another guy that does great calls too, Drew Diligence. And he's been working his rear end off. Apparently he can't fit in a chair anymore. He has to use phone books and everything. His butt's worked off. And then I like Anna runs a really nice call. She has a good community. She handles the audience questions. She's respectful and moves the conversation along. She has a very nice space call. I don't know when it comes on because sometimes it's in the morning, sometimes it's at night. Fool if you think you made it. Hey, Barbara L. Andrew Guerrera, through Fidelity. I'm noticing that my eyesight is a little bleary, worse for wear and tear. I was driving through Bakersfield early Sunday morning. Listening to the provocative word country radio. And the preacher came on and said, all my dreams can come true. I don't know what that means, Mark Maddox. Anna is the pretty lady I took a picture of, but those aren't her strongest points. Her strongest points are her, her dad, at the local level anyway, state level, was in politics in a fashion I can't remember right now. I can't remember if he was... Anyway, I don't know if it was the local courthouse or higher up, but he would fight for families in the South, in Georgia, who were losing their homes to the banks, much like the banksters do now. And he would fight it. And remember, in the South, back then, I argue there's less racism among white men than the media would have you believe. But there's no question, a few years, even only a decade ago, it was much worse. So anyway, he fought on behalf of these families. And she's picked up that trait, I think, from him, fighting in the halls of Congress on behalf of those who my dad worked at a government agency, and he went all the way to the top. And it was one that was underfunded compared to others. It wasn't defense, for example. But he would point out to me that what happens in the halls of Congress is his organization didn't have a huge constituency across the country. So there wasn't a lot of pressure being applied to Congress to equalize their salaries with the rest of the bureaucracy. And he also always told me when I would rail on items like, for example, I got into oil and gas, natural gas, because natural gas, believe it or not, is the cleanest fossil fuel. Even if it escapes, which most in the industry do everything possible to prevent that from happening. When Biden blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, he let more methane gas burp into the atmosphere by far than a mistake maybe made at a wellhead that they cap off right away. But methane gas only stays in the atmosphere, I think, 40 years. I think that's right. Compared to coal, carbon dioxide stays up there 250 years. So if there is which I think it makes sense that there is. You've got gas, it's a heat trapping gas. But to the extent that there's an effect, a lot of what's happening is the coal we put up, we burned, and Germany burned, and the UK, it's still up there. But anyway, natural gas is the cleanest burning. It's comfortable for heat and cooking. And the idiots, these woke idiots, absolute idiots, indoctrinated by a feminized educational system, it's gone off the tracks. I'm all for women, by the way. All for women equaling and exceeding men. And women, in my judgment, are more powerful than men. No one ever started a war over a man. But they did over Helen. Anyway, the insanity of New York cutting off natural gas usage, you can't explain it. You can't explain it. Electric cars burn coal. Coal is the most damaging fossil fuel. The most damaging. But, hey, you went to Harvard, your chick professor told you it's true, and she told you you live in a patriarchy, whatever the hell a patriarchy is. And you believed it. And now we all have to pay the cost. And then they break up the family. And that one bulwark against idiots in government is lost. I don't know. I'm starting to think I'm not a Democrat anymore. But I really like RFK Jr. I really like him. Really like him. So we'll see. So who's... Hey, Vegeta. Thank you. I read part. I guess I need to go back and see the rest of your explanation for how they basically, I guess, make a derivative out of finger. I don't know how they do it. Who's going to win the Kentucky Derby? I had a client and a dear friend who had horses there, but he doesn't speak to me anymore. But I hope he does well. And I like the Kentucky Derby. I've been fortunate to be there, have gone there, I don't know, 10, 12 times, something like that. But I wish I were going this weekend. Hey, boy, can you go close the door? You're freezing, but you won't let me close the door. Every time I go to close the door, he hurries ahead of me, and he hops out on the deck. He won't let me close it. So, hey, lion of all trades. Now, RFK wouldn't be a Dem. JFK wouldn't be a Dem. I'm going to ask on this call, your grandfather's horse is Bold Venture? Oh, but that's a long time ago, CB. 1936. That's a pretty good name. Bold Venture. We should all, if we make enough money, I've got the guys that can buy us a horse, or a piece of a horse, and we should name it GTII's Revenge, or Gary Gensler's balls. No, that's a bad one. Lucky. What is going on? What is going on? He's getting caught up in all the electrical cords. He's freezing, but he won't let me close the door. He's getting old. He's getting old. You're a good boy. You know I love you. He knows I give him treats. That's what he knows. Facts coming up now. All right. Ham and eggs. We could call it ham and eggs. We could call it avid hamster. We could call it the GTII Army. We could call it Take That hedge funds. But Jack Wolf, is it true? Is it true that this man has... And do you remember that from let me see if I can find it. How did we live without Google? And Bill Murray. How did you guys live without Bill Murray? Hang on a second. Hang on a second. So annoying. So annoying. So annoying.
Hey, where's this pack?
I am Walter Peck, sir, and I'm prepared to make a full report. These men are consummate snowball artists. They use sense and nerve gases to induce hallucinations. People think they're seeing ghosts. And they call these bozos who conveniently show up to deal with the problem with a fake electronic light show.
Everything was fine with our system until the power grid was shut off by Dickless here.
They caused an explosion.
Is this true?
Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
Funny the things you remember from movies. Tap her thrice, Angel of Empire. I like that one. You did give him a kiss? I bet he was a gentleman, CB. Arthur. Imagine how wonderful a woman who bathed would. How did it go? Imagine a woman who bathed. Imagine how wonderful a woman who bathed would be. I see you have a wonderful economy with words, Gloria. I look forward to your next syllable with great eagerness. Now he's going to go to sleep. Once he's asleep, I might go close that door. What's my thought on GTII? Let me see what Reader said. Lovely Reader. Call the horse Dickless. That's good, Reader. It's the whole SEC. Why focus on just one guy? The whole group is... You met Bill Murray and he was not in a good mood. He probably had a hangover. I thought that movie he did, Lost in Translation, with the just stunningly alluring and lovely Scarlett Johansson, was amazing. Confusing, but amazing. I still wonder what he whispered to her. I hope GTII doesn't benefit off us, Sam. I'm sick of CRTD, MULN, and COSM, and unfortunately CLNV, all these. But you have to have some pity for the CEOs, because they can't accept in their heart of hearts that the criminals are so criminal. Dennis Berkowitz, you read my mind. What do I think? There'll be a change to the rigged markets. Well, Dennis, I think the market is going to Vendetta, and if those market makers also have a hedge fund arm, it's a conflict of interest when they play with derivatives. Okay, I'll try to. I pity the fool. Dennis, I think the game has changed. When Kurt Kramer got his license, so he passed the Series 7, it was around 2002, something around then. And then he worked at 4 firms in the span of 2 or 3 years, something like that. So he wasn't good at what he did. And if he brought the current attitude he has of trying to play in the gray areas, no firm would have him. But it's also where he might have been taught. Because one thing I agree with Frommer, Kramer ain't smart enough to figure out this whole system, all the angles on his own. So he was probably taught. Well, that was that was 20 years ago. G.W. Bush gave you your own money back, and at the same time, he started 2 wars. There were no Afghanis on those planes, and there were no Iraqis, but he started the wars. So we went about giving away and spending trillions of dollars, but interest rates remained low. And in that flood of money, which all somehow ends up in the bankers' hands, in that flood of money, the criminals were able to continue doing this. And then Obama ran to help folks, because he wanted to help folks. He didn't do a thing about it. People still lost their houses. He didn't put a single banker up for grilling, and not a single banker went to jail. So he just talked and did nothing. Well, interest rates stayed low under Barack Obama, because the head of the Federal Reserve just helicopter money. Well, that money ended up in the banks and in the hedge funds and in the system. It was nearly free. And then under Trump, prices stayed down, inflation stayed down, and interest rates stayed down. Of course, he also added massively to debt. But that's built into our system. The debt has to continue expanding or our system implodes. But anyway, he did that. And now we got this brainless. Is it true? Yes, this man has no brain. We've got this headless presidency, and interest rates are now going up. And the Fed is in a dilemma. Do you let the dollar collapse so that we lose control of the world financial system? Or do you fight inflation? They got to fight inflation, but they're also flooding the system with money to rescue banks and other things. So I don't know, they got a really tough job. But anyway, Dennis, my point is that interest rates going up means for the hedge funds, the money isn't free anymore. So there's real costs. That's one. Two, liquidity, leverage and liquidity. It's like, I don't know, steroids on the way up. But when it reverses on you, it's like hell on earth. And all of a sudden, all that equity starts disappearing. All the costs come home to roost. You have margin calls. And so I think the second thing is, the first thing is money's no longer free to the hedge funds and all the criminals. Two, I think the costs of carry, the very liquidity, the ability to hide mistakes in this system is rapidly going away. That's two. Three, the system isn't as monolithical as you think. I bet I know a lot of people on Wall Street have no idea this is going on. And there's my experience on Wall Street, like the general population, A+ for honesty and integrity. A+. But there's just that sliver of criminals. And so I think the ability to continue to counterfeit shares and stuff the system this way, I think that's going to disappear as well. Banks are going down. When banks start losing money, they protect themselves. It's not that they're all one big wall of Wall Street. So as banks go down and as money is lost in these pockets of counterfeit shares, other bankers, other hedge funds, other pools of money are going to start buying and making money on the way up. It's just not. It's not a one-way street. And if the money becomes easy to make, blowing up Carl Icahn or Goldman Sachs or Ken Griffin, that's where the money will go do that. So that's another risk they have. And I guess specifically, Dennis, in the case of GTII and GoLogic uniquely, these CEOs are doing what it takes to crush the shorts, and they're not going to make a misstep intentionally. They're not going to make an intentional misstep. But it's a good question, Dennis. I wake up in the middle. I'm walking my dog today. It's like, this has been 2 years. What insanity. Is there something wrong with me? Instead of doing this for 2 years, we could have invested in what's the newest thing? Artificial intelligence stocks. Jay Roach, banks are scheming for the bail-in. What you gonna do when they come for you? I don't know. So Dennis, you did get 10% in Schwab. Schwab's another bank that apparently is in trouble. I don't want to cause a run or anything, but not that I could, but sorry, I Recreate-a-son. In 8 minutes, Ham is going to be on a call. He'll explain the next steps on GTII. Pepe is the way. ¿Dónde está la casa de Pepe? That's how Steve Martin asks for the restroom when he goes to España. What's my prediction? My prediction is pain. Richard in New England, my prediction for GTII is they're going to make us feel it right now. They're going to try to make it hurt. But I see that as a sign of weakness, not strength. I think you're asking for a prediction, which means it can be wrong. I think the number one thing that's going to come is the Trento mines, and I think it could happen this week, next week. It could happen this month, next month, but I think it's that kind of time frame. And when you add $5, $10, $15 of asset value to your per share stock, the shorts won't know what hit them. So number one's that. Number two is 1-800 law firm, I think, will get finished this time because they hired another auditor. That's just next week. That's the 15th. So now watch, they'll get an extension, but I think they'll get it done on time. You asked for a prediction. That adds $100 million in revenues and $30 million in income. Both of my numbers are to the high side, but that's coming, and then the shorts are in trouble. The FBI is after the people who defrauded Westpac. The FBI. Wes Christian is suing 50 John Does, and he's going to get discovery, and he's not going to quit. The CEO is not going to settle with Kurt Kramer. This is James Dean, 2 cars going, heading, playing chicken. CEO's not going to turn right or left. He's going to run right into the next car, or the shorts are going to have to get out of the way. And so he's James Deaning it. I think this dividend might catch, and I'm going to ask Cam about it, but maybe we should all ask for delivery of the restricted shares, since they're not going to be around. They're not going to be free to trade when the squeeze happens, if we call it correctly. They're going to keep doing dividends, and the next one will be on blockchain, on Upstream, with this West Christian lawsuit payout. That, I think, could catch out the system. They're not going to quit. But in the meantime, GTII, the shorts, every trade is fraud. Every sale is fraud. Gary Gensler doesn't care. He's enamored of Lindsay Lohan and Kim Kardashian because he didn't get Yum Yum in high school and college. I can't explain it. Before he goes claiming other territories to regulate, take care of what's on his plate already. All right, we got 4 minutes. I'm going to sign in. How do I sign in? Oh, I know where. I don't know. It's not open yet. It's not open yet, so I got to do it in 3 minutes. What about GTII going on the pinks? You mean, Matt, going lower? I'd have to look where they are. Are they QB right now? Let me look where they are. They are already on the pink. They're already on the pink, 135. But see those green? They have a verified profile as of 4/23. Transfer agent is verified. Independent board of directors. These are all good, but they're already on the pink. I know Cindy Lou Who, but I'm not able to get on it. It's not open. So I just have to wait till 4 o'clock. Oh, they were QB. So you're saying, I guess, Yo and Matt, it went down. It doesn't really bother me. I think the over-the-counter markets are all basically the same. I think NASDAQ isn't much better. In fact, NASDAQ might be worse. So it doesn't really bother me if they went down. I wonder why. Anyway, I'll have to find out. The petition flyer believes unidentified parties, this is T-Strup, in the blue sheet data committed stock spoofing, naked shorting, market manipulation, and fraud. FINRA is the only party with access to that. And why should we worry about it? I mean, it's okay. We got to make sure our daughter goes to Harvard, and we don't want to steer it up. Little darling, steer it up. Oh, they didn't timely file the 4S. Well, that wasn't brilliant. That for a company that never missed steps, that wasn't brilliant. I don't think it's going to matter though, Yo and Matt, because all right, I'm going to start listening. Because these things they're doing, that's not going to matter. Okay, so I'm up with the host. Do I have to request? I don't know how to do this. I'm just requesting to let them know I'm here. Okay, so I'm speaker. I'm not co-host. Avid is co-host. So I'm not co-host. It said I was going to be co-host.
I'm doing good. Just give me a minute to get set up. Of course.
I'm mad now.
200 people in here already. I love it.
So we got Busy Brands, Avid Trader, Junk Savvy, Curtis, Swing, Tuggy. I don't know who that is. Truth Seeker, Gandalf. 100 is great. Jim Fisher. Dozer, fantastic. See?
You send out some invites as well.
Now I'm a big shot. I like being a big shot. I'm a co-host. Ari's there. Rich Fizz.
See if James O'Keefe will get on here.
KM. Tony Al is there. You can call me Al.
Wow, that number jumped quick. 200 to 400. I love it.
Yeah, I shut a space down so everybody could jump over here.
Awesome.
All right, guys, I'm waiting on John Berta. I'm also waiting on
The hamster.
possibly Patrick Burns. Let's see if he joins the call. And I have Ham ready to go, so here we go. Am
I going?
Yes, sir. You got the mic.
All right, everybody. We're trying to get Patrick Byrne on here. I know him a long time, and again, he's busy doing his political thing, and I don't want to interrupt him. When he gets on a mission, he puts his head down like I do, and we just, we stay there for days, weeks, years. We don't go away until we get it done. Right? So that's the type of people we are. We keep fighting, and we won't stop. Today, we spoke about yesterday, for those who just joining, yesterday we talked about the depository trust clamping down on risk. The risk in the market is too big. There's people with no money that are making billion-dollar bets, and they have nothing to back it up. Okay, everyone on this phone call, we can't afford to bet $1 million on a game, and we have $1 in your pocket. It just doesn't work. So, with the banking sector getting destroyed because they're over-leveraged and the risk management, the DTC has no choice because the system cannot handle everyone taking these big lumps. Okay? They're walking away for trade. And for those who don't pay attention, $1 billion is a lot of money. When they start losing 1, 2, 5 billion like the Credit Suisse, eventually they collapse. Credit Suisse collapse. The more I'm sure is on the ropes. These guys are taking beatings. Why? Because the people defrauding them. Why? Because they let them get too much risk. Okay? Today, the SEC followed up yesterday's news by alerting the hedge fund industry. They're looking, and they have to know what they are. If they're losing, they want to know what they're losing and how big it is. There's no more GameStop where they're hiding. We're down a couple of $1 billion and catch everybody surprised. Oh, sorry about that. We forgot to tell you we're down $3 billion right now. There's no more of that. The system cannot handle this. The banks are going to blow up. These criminals, everyone's over-leveraged, okay, and they're just walking away from trades. We see, what we don't see are smaller hedge funds, the guys that are getting blown up in a stock like TOP or HKD or whatever it was, or, Bed Bath & Beyond or GameStop. These small hedge funds were blown up and probably guys walked away. Probably, a couple of $1 billion that we don't even know about, small hedge funds. Hey, we are in an LLC, we're broke, we're done. Good luck. All right, because these guys are over-leveraged. It's like the Wild West. People are playing with money they can't afford to play the game with. Okay? On the long side, when you buy a stock, if you don't put the money up, you can't play. On the short side, you put up $1, they'll let you short $10 billion worth of stock. Well, those days are coming to an end, and the SEC and the DTC, they all know it. Okay? MMTLP, which has the Blue Sheet investigation coming out yesterday. Mark Mazzillo was on the call. He told everybody the timeline. I think it's May 19th is when FINRA has to respond. That is going to be Armageddon because they have to show us the number. The number is 165 million long. The number can't be 500, 600, 765 million. If the number was even or close to even, FINRA would have told you already. Obviously, they don't want discovery. What's going to happen? My guess, the lawyers won't say it too, is they're going to want to try to figure out a settlement on the stock side and then work it out with the lawyers on the back side. So whoever the short is, whether it's Virtue, Citadel, whoever the player is, they know who it is. They're probably preparing them to tell them they got to take a bath on this thing, and that's just the way it is. I don't know if they open up for trading. Do they do a settlement saying, hey, everybody, the highest this thing went was 11, we'll give you $20 and everybody's out? I don't know. I have no idea what they would do, but, something's got to give there and get this away and seal it up, get the lawyers, everyone to sign off on this thing and it goes away. Right? They can't have discovery. If that number comes out and it's 500 million and there's 165, trust me, everyone in the world is going to know the system is broken. How did all those shares get into the equity market? With no guidelines, no one to catch it. I always tell people, in a supermarket, they use a yellow marker to detect a $20 or fake $100 bill. In the U.S. equity market, people sold millions, billions of dollars worth of stock. No one even checked it. Okay? So that's what's coming up. The SEC
his stock. And what did he do today? He reversed the stock. The same pattern. Short it down. Companies are going to get back. They're afraid they're going to get delisted like it means anything. And they get delisted, and now they have to get compliant. Now he's going to do a 25 for 1 reverse. At 7 cents, where's it going to be? $1.40, $1.50? It's 50 cents before he breaks the dollar again.
Is it 5?
Okay? These guys are animals.
Okay.
Until they settle the stock market or you fight back, you will die.
Is this supposed to be 5?
Okay? I've shown people a couple of stocks. I bring it to your attention every day. I think that the stocks like these Chinese stocks that are killing the short sellers. For example, today, I looked at this TOP. I know nothing about it. They tried to break it, went down to $53 and turned, and it went right back up to $93 again. So the short is still in.
I have 10.
But hopefully it goes to 0, all of a sudden I panic and I got to try to buy it back, and I'm taking it back up 8. Some new short is shorting it and it just keeps rotating it. In the middle, anybody that was long at $7 is having a party because they're selling all their stock with the shorts, so they're just killing each other. Once again, this is what the SEC is afraid of, guys on the short side. Remember, shorts have unlimited liability to the upside. That's what the fear is now in the marketplace. We know the damage if you're long. You don't know the damage on the short side. Okay? If anyone have any questions, feel free. Well, let me just touch on the dividend with GTII. The dividend was obviously journal entry just for a lot of accounts. Everyone's got some sort of, everyone's got a different code for what it means. And I don't have the answer yet to how to address it. But William, are you here, William? Are you here?
I'm here, hamster.
What did we talk about today, and what do you think?
Well, yeah, I'll say that quickly, but before we say that, I want to add to one of your points you just made about 20 billion, 10 billion, 40 billion being a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but when it's on leverage, when it's all leveraged, which these guys are leveraged, it's really big money. Anyway, I wanted to say that. But on the dividend, the restricted dividend, the question I asked you, and it's an open answer. I mean, we should discuss it. But what if all of us asked for delivery of our restricted shares? We're not going to be able to trade them for 6 months anyway, and it would really put pressure on the system, I think. And so, Ham, that's what I had asked you, and you said you'd answer it on the call.
Yes, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
William, so I do believe that if any shareholders are here, I'm just going to make this is my gut opinion, that if you said to me, what should we do as a group of longs, everyone should just tell their broker, send you the dividend shares. Okay?
Yeah.
When they get them in the account, it's a 10% free shot. I promise that I will find a brokerage firm to take them in, and basically, when they're free trading, you can put them back in and you can sell them. Right now, they're worthless, they're restricted. So let's call them out. Get your stock. Say, send it to me. All right? It may cost $20. It may cost $30. They'll try to do something to discourage you from getting it. But tell me you want a physical cert, send it to my house and get it out of the system. Because if it does squeeze, the $10 or $20 that you will pay to get that certificate could help us on the other side and squeeze the stock to wherever we think it's going to go.
And the transfer agent is friendly to us, the company too. So getting it back in the system shouldn't be as large a barrier.
We got 6 months to play with that to figure it
Exactly.
out. But the small broker dealers that would love to get 50,000 accounts of people selling a stock.
Exactly.
So there's people that are starving for business, that do right business, that would love to get new accounts. So again, if you want to help out, again, not everybody wants to help out. Take a shot. Call your broker up and say, hey, send me my dividend. It's in my account. account, I want it sent to me. Okay, I'm sure you're going to get back every crazy answer in the world, and you're going to see what they say coming back to you. All right, any other question, Bill? I forgot what we talked about.
The question I get the most is what's next for GT.
I was kind of hoping Patrick Byrne would join today. He did reach out and said, let's do it. And, he gets busy, the guy, so you can't hold it against him.
He'll come on. He'll come
I
on.
promise you that. And just so you guys know, I reached out to Charlie Payne to help the MMTLP community, and he's been nothing but an ace. You got to respect him. He has a big-time job, and you can see what the industry does to people that try to fuck the system. So let's be respectful for what he does. He's doing what he can. He retweeted today. Okay, the guy has a tremendous job. He's worked a long time to get to this position. So let's treat him with respect. And he's a great guy. So again, I'll leave that. But next question. Anybody have a question? Shoot.
Go ahead, Abbott. If anybody has a question, please take a mic. I got one person right here. Go ahead, Vince.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's been asking pretty much about, what's moving forward with the 1-800. I know that you said that there were some big plans about a possible, acquisition, and that's really on our sights for the future, is trying to move a company in that has some strong fundamentals and maybe improve the book value of GTI. I think that's a really good idea. Any update on that? Or I know I get that question a lot in terms of any...
Again, I'm not the company, there's people that, if anyone ever worked for a public company, it's very difficult to get things done. Things move at a snail's pace. You have to file with FINRA, do this, get lawyers to sign off on it. There's parties, there's people with big deals. It's not easy. Remember, the short sellers are just hitting the sell button, washing stock back and forth. They do it to drive you crazy. Then everybody asks me to get information about what the deals are. I don't have that information. I don't have a public company. I don't have a company to merge. We send out messages to people all the time that are in the space. If they have anything, show it to GTII. We always do that. We have people on the street that we reach out to, and we try to help out. But again, that's way above my pay grade.
Yeah, I know there was a lot of people that were...
Give Abbott a view on his new video talking about the SEC going after the hedge funds. Everyone's working to make this work. On a different note, I posted on Twitter, tomorrow morning I'll post the numbers for the SEC. At 12 noon tomorrow, everybody call up the SEC. It takes 3 minutes. Leave them a message. Pick whatever stock you want to talk about. I don't care. And just tell them about the fraud that you see about naked short selling. There's a whistleblower complaint. File it. You know what? We're the only group of people that call the police all the time. I got some bozo that's been attacking me on Twitter, some idiot, and he's calling everywhere, pump and dumps. We're the only people that call the SEC. I went to the FBI. We call the police every day. Okay? Not every fact that we know is right on the nose. We may be off by it a little bit here and there because we don't have the actual documents in front of us, but we actually have a good feel for it. Like Mark Brazil said yesterday, I've helped Wes Christian. There's not a question. I followed him, all the spoofing, the trading, all the weird things that I see. We're doing everything we can to help it. Again, 12 o'clock tomorrow, a former SEC enforcement told me, guys, said, listen, hammer them at 12 noon. They hate it at 12 o'clock. GTI investors did it for 6 months straight. I'm sure some people have been here with him. Do you remember those days?
I remember them well.
How many days did we call the SEC every day at 12
We
noon?
did it for months, and that's when you had 12 people listening, and then it grew and it grew and it grew, and they would call you back. The SEC calls you back, but you're right. They hate it.
They hate it at 12 noon. Make the call. It's your money. Help yourself. We all talk on Twitter. We tweet, we retweet, blah, blah, blah. We're all talking to ourselves. Make the call. Help yourself out. The truck, the MMTL people making videos, they're hitting home. Everybody's hitting home. The pressure's on. We know that Geneva Roth, the Kramers, had the debenture with their toxic lenders. They got paid off. They're short. Charlie Mayo called the company. All this information is right here. Abbott put it together in a video. You can actually hear the short seller calling the company up trying to buy stock. That's unheard of. Imagine a Tesla short, a GameStop short calling up and having a voice recording. It'll be all over television. It'll be on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. Remember this, and I'll be stern about this. GTII is the leader, has been for 2.5 years in exposing this fight. MMTLP came along at the right time to help us out. I feel bad that people got trapped. They have no choice, but it's like they joined the army and they can't get out. Okay, they have to fight their way out to get home. Again, everyone working together. It's important that we all work together. I always put a photo up of the Romans working together. That's how they won. When the Romans fought by themselves, the barbarians slaughtered them. That's why we fight together. I applaud anybody that can call the SEC. I don't care if it's 1 or 100. Let them know. File a whistleblower complaint. They said they paid out $1 billion. I always tell them keep mine and donate it to cancer research. All right? But again, everyone just do it pro. We're trying to get Patrick Byrne on here, okay, to try to help us out and give you more information. One of the questions, in case I'm not around, and Patrick does come on, the most important question is when you see a Goldman or UBS or Interactive Brokers all get fined for naked shorting, like I always said, when it's spread out amongst 1,000 stocks, selling 6 billion shares is not going to be a big thing, or 60 billion shares. Don't get me wrong, it's bad, but not tremendously bad. But when it's concentrated, and they don't include Apple and IBM, and let's say it's just a GTII or MMTLP or Finger, okay, concentrated naked shorts are destructive. They destroy, okay, and that Patrick Byrne taught us that a long time ago. Concentrated naked short selling is the worst. Okay, and when you get caught doing it, it's so destructive. It destroys everything. And what do we have? The depository fund in a court document says Alpine has a concentrated short position in GTII. That guy said that one trader said that they covered it. Well, we study every trade. I've never seen them cover it. I do see them washing a lot of stock, meaning that position is still open. They move it from one account to another. Every morning, for people that just paid attention, I'm on GTII right now because I study it. Every morning, the same market maker or trading platform, OTCN, is the first to sign in and the first to be the low offer every day, trying to mark it down. Why is it him? Because other market makers have moved away because they're involved in the lawsuits. They don't want anything to do with it. If you were their compliance officer, you would walk into a VERT, who is a market maker who blasted the shit out of GTI for 7 months straight. He was our OTCN back in the beginning, and he hasn't moved his market in a month and a half. He's standing there, but he hasn't updated and hasn't moved his market for a month and a half. So basically, he's been given the riot act and don't take any more orders here. All right, this is when a plane's going to crash, they tell everybody to move away. That's what I see happening. Okay, I don't know what day it's going to happen, but everybody's moving away because they know something's happening. West is waiting for the judge to rule to go to discovery. Mark Bazile is waiting for FINRA to provide the blue sheet information that is May 15th, or May 19th, May 19th, FINRA has to show up, and May 29th is the court date where they have to present it. So these days are coming on quick. Take away the weekends, you're not talking about many days left in the game. Okay? GTI gave out a special dividend. The special dividend can only give out to long investors of record, shareholders of record. Everyone right now has an IOU in your account. Okay? They have to fix this. That is a restricted share. It has a monetary value of $1.40 per share. If we believe that 300 million shares short, 10% of that is 30 million times $1.40. Someone's lost $40-something million. and they have a black hole and they have to fix it. Your brokerage firm needs to call the short seller, whoever's willing to deliver to get the dividend delivered to the brokerage firm. If the short doesn't deliver it, E-Trade, Ameritrade, they take that loss, that 40-something million. They all have to take a bite of that, whatever they're short. So either they call in the short or they take the loss for it. Now, if we all ask for our shares to get delivered, which William, I think is a great idea. Okay, I can't tell you to do it. You have to want to do it yourself. Okay, I see no harm in doing it. But again, when you go to do it, I'm sure everybody's going to get some funny answer back. Like when I call tomorrow, they're going to say, well, we'll get back to you next week. I got to check with whatever. Most brokers, people, they stopped delivering physical shares back in 2003. I think they stopped it. Okay, they don't want people to get it. If you want to get it, they're like they moan and cry like they're giving you away, to children. I mean, that's how difficult it is because they know if people, it's like a run on the bank. If everyone wants their money today, there is no money. So if we have 300 million shares short, imagine them scrambling, looking for the shares, those 30 million shares. Okay, they're going to give you every story on the creation, on the God here. So if you can, I appreciate if you do. If you can, make the call tomorrow to the SEC. It takes 3 minutes. Get your name, rank, and serial number. Register your complaint. I don't care what stock it is. Pick your stock. But I don't give it to Chinese stock. Do whatever you want. But register your complaint about naked short selling. The only way it's going to end to protect you, your family, your grandkids is to fight back and stand up. In 3 goddamn minutes, make the call. Give Abbott a view on his video that he just put out. Next question. Anybody I could call?
Yeah, Ham, I want to just make a statement real quick. I know there's a lot of longs here at GTII that have been, expressing that they're a little tired, they're feeling burnt out. I got all the conviction in the world here. I feel just as confident in the day I entered here, and I just wanted, if you could just reiterate if you feel that same confidence, if not even more confident now than you have ever before. Just for all the guys that have been here 2-3 years, much longer than I've been here, I know a lot of them are feeling tired, and that's really what I've been hearing. But I'm just trying to keep reiterating that I feel, like I said, just as confident as I've been from day one, if not even more confident with the progress we've been making. So, if anything you have to mention to them, I think it's appreciated.
I met John Berger this weekend in Puerto Rico, last weekend, whatever it was, and I think he got a chance to hear how I believe in what I'm doing. And I think John is on the call. Am I correct, John? Are you here?
He's here.
I'm here. Yep, I'm here.
John, do you feel, since we met, that you finally got to meet me in person after all these years? So it's like, do I tell a convincing story? Do I believe in what I'm doing? You can answer that.
Yeah, actually, 100%. We must have had probably 100 conversations with 100 different people, and GTII came up on every one of them. So there's no doubt this is his conviction, and I can't imagine him not seeing this through.
Brad, could you do me a favor? Can you direct message Patrick Byrne right now? He's asking me to just sort of. He said direct message me now, so take care of that, all right?
Okay, I'll do it right now. Go ahead, continue, John.
He's on here. He's on here. I'm about to give him a mic.
Bring it, Binks.
Hey, Patrick, I just gave you a mic. You got to click request.
Go ahead, continue, John. No, I was just saying, we had a good time together, and I don't think there's any doubt in his conviction as to where this is going and where this is headed, and the reasons for it, to be honest with you.
I'm just waiting on him to click accept.
Well, while we're here, I met with John. Okay, John is a guy that does deep dives into everything he does. He's too deep for me, but he is that type of guy. I'm the opposite. You just push me and I'm going. John is the guy that sits down, reads every document, does his legwork. There's people that he surrounds himself with that make great people around him. And as a team, this is a guy that you want to be in business. You want to be a leader. And the people that are in Torchlight that left the MMTLP, it was my pleasure to introduce him to Charlie Payne and do whatever I can to help him out because, John's that guy. I'm not that guy. I'm just a knucklehead. But I just go down the road. But John's the type of guy, every detail, he understands everything he speaks about. I just shoot from the hip. I'm a different guy, and that's what Wall Street's about. Now, there's Patrick here, for Christ's sake. Where is this guy?
Give me a second, Ham. Hey, Patrick, if you're listening in, you need to log in from your cell phone, not a PC. Just want to make sure. Again, Patrick, if you're on a PC, you need to be on a mobile phone to access the space call and speak. Sorry about that, Ham. I just wanted to make sure. Sometimes, yeah, but he's on the call and we send him a mic, so sometimes they get confused that they could probably speak on PC, which is not possible unless you download.
Thank you for everybody on this call. My first question to Patrick is that Patrick, we were at Occupy Wall Street. We've met each other many times. But my question is, concentrated naked shorts, how deadly are they? The only person to ever speak about it. He brought it to my attention and to my people many years ago. And when Goldman Sachs was just sanctioned, that's what brought back to my memory. It kicked me in the head. They sold 60 billion shares of stock. And to me, if that was concentrated, the stocks they were concentrated in were destroyed.
He has the mic.
They would never tell you.
He has the mic.
Patrick.
I'm on. Sorry, I did not know I had come from.
Patrick Byrne.
We've been gunning for you for a long time. There's a lot of people that followed you for many years, including myself, and I'll make it easy for you. Patrick, you're the only person who ever spoke about, and I think with Jonathan and Mark Mitchell used to write about it. I think it was Mark Mitchell, right? The guy from the journal? I can't remember.
Right, correct.
But you talked about concentrated naked short selling versus short selling and how it was just concentrated, how deadly it was. And Goldman just recently got sanctioned for selling 60 billion shares of stock naked short, just marking the tickets. Explain to everyone about concentration of naked shorts and your opinion on that.
Sure. First, it's an honor to be on. It's kind of been an honor to learn in the last few months that all those battles of mine 15, 18 years ago have not been studied, have not been forgotten, that people still study them and know about that crazy fight I was in. Yeah, well, the concentration, and I assume everyone on the call understands like the mechanics of naked short selling. I'm not going to be explaining any of that stuff.
Yeah, this is a very well educated group, Patrick. Very well educated.
Well, there was. I do want to tell you one story about how I got into this really quickly. I got a phone call. There were a bunch of people on message boards in the days before Twitter, a bunch of people finding each other. And they call, and they had this all kind of figured out. Somebody called me in the summer of 2004. And he started telling me this, and he sounded like a whack job. And it was just gibberish. And after about 40 minutes, I was starting to hang up. He said, look, I can tell you you don't believe me. So I'm going to make 4 predictions. And when these things happen, you call me. And the predictions were, so I had not understood a word he had said for 40 minutes. It was all about option market maker exemptions and settlement, blah, blah, blah. And so he says, I'll make these 4 predictions. First, you're going to hear from this set of 5 journalists. They're all going to call and do hatchet jobs on you. Secondly, you're going to see your stock trading on foreign exchanges, and people go and get it set up in Bahamas and Bermuda and Singapore and Australia and Frankfurt. You're going to see your stock appearing all over the world on exchanges. Third, you're going to become the object of a federal investigation. And I said, what do you mean? Who from whom? He said, well, I don't know. But listen, these guys all have federal employees on speed dial, and they can call up a regulator and order up a federal investigation on you. And fourth, when there's going to be a list that starts getting published in a couple months, Patrick. It's called the Regulation Show Threshold List. And it starts getting published in January. So he was talking to me in November or October. He says, it's going to be published in January, and you're going to see your stock on it. And when all these happen, you contact me. And I said, okay, fella. And I hung up, and I couldn't have repeated a word of the gibberish he said. But I remember those 3 days later, the first of those 5 journalists called me. And over the following week, all 5 of them called me. And they all had the same hatchet job in mind. They had the same list of questions, a bunch of, are you still beating your wife kind of stuff. And 3 or 4 of them wrote, Liz McDonald was the only one who didn't go through with it. But the others all wrote hatchet jobs. Over the next few weeks, our stock began trading in Bermuda, in Frankfurt, in Berlin, in Stuttgart, and Australia. And so someone went to a lot of trouble to get us listed all over the world. A month after that phone call, the FTC launched an investigation on Overstock that went 2 years and cost $2 million, and then they dropped it. The most nonsensical investigation I won't even waste your time with, but a ridiculous investigation that led nowhere. There was nothing to it, and they dropped it. And fourth, a couple months after that conversation, the list of the first reg show list was published. And there were 7,000 publicly traded companies in America at the time. There were 30 on the list. We were on the list. So now this guy, so when something like that happens, you got to call back and say, well, I don't know I mean, it's only rational to say it may have been all gibberish, whatever this guy was saying, but he made 4 wacky, far-out predictions, and all 4 happened. So what was it that guy was trying to explain to me? And I got back in touch with him, and he started teaching me about this and sent me books, and I got books, and within a month or so, I had it. So anyway, that's my origin story of how I got in that fight. I can tell you that it turned out to be, I thought I was dealing with a schmuck in Florida. I'd come on some little scheme of some guy who was manipulating my stock. I didn't realize that I had just sort of tripped over a little thread. That little schmuck was a nobody, but the thread led to Goldman Sachs. And I ended up in this huge monster lawsuit. And ultimately it turned out, and I've made this document public, it cost about $30 million of discovery to get to that document. It turned out that 75% of the revenue of Goldman Sachs came from their stock loan desk. So all of their prime brokerage revenue. So prime brokerage is serving hedge funds. So the other businesses they're in, like, M&A and doing IPOs, they all make a little bit of money here or there. But 75% of their revenue came from a business with almost no expense. The stock loan business has almost no expense. You got Tony, Louie, Vinny, and Luigi down in the basement at a card table with a chalkboard. It's the simplest bit. And that's where 75% of the revenue and probably well over 100% of the profit of Goldman Sachs came from. Which really means it's just the stock loan desk with the name of a bank on the door. That was 2007, and I don't know how much things have changed. It sounds like not much. So that's that. Now let me get it. That's the background. And where did you want me to get to your question? I'm sorry. Go back to that, sir.
Patrick, my question for 15 years is that you're the only person to ever talk about concentrated short positions. When they make a short concentrated, instead of carpet bombing 10,000 names, Goldman just got caught just blocking 60 billion tickets on the sell side. All right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
If it was concentrated versus spread out, that's just your opinion on that.
Well, that's called strategic. That was one of the big. So when I started digging into it, I found a paper by an economist. Last I knew, she was in New Mexico, Leslie Boni. Her last name is spelled Boni, and it was called Strategic Failures to Deliver or something like that. You can look this up. And I reached out to her, and what she found, she was given access by the SEC. They asked her to come and look into this stuff. She was given access, and what she found was, if this was in fact be spread, somebody fat fingers a trade. I mean, one can understand why there are these rules on delivery. If somebody makes a mistake and they fat finger a trade, they think they have 1,000 shares, but they enter 10,000. I think that that you wouldn't want the whole market to seize up. So you have these exceptions to the rules. But if it were really being random human error, you would imagine those mistakes would be scattered all over the market. Well, it turns out they are very, very strategic. They're concentrated, and they're concentrated in places wherever the borrow is tight, wherever the negative rebate that you have to pay to borrow the stock is tight. So if it's really just a matter of, my dog ate my certificate, I couldn't get in, or, if it were really random errors like that creating these settlement failures, that doesn't explain how they can be very, very concentrated. Does the dog know only to eat the certificates of the stocks with a high negative rebate? No. So clearly there's human planning doing this strategically. I'll never forget, I talked to her in 2006. I tracked her down. I think she'd moved to UCLA, actually. I tracked her down, and she would talk to me once on the phone. And at the end of the conversation, I said, Dr. Bonai, if this is true, there's this horrendous crime going on in the marketplace, and there's no reason this doesn't all implode. We're creating this huge derivative risk latent in the system that people don't understand. And she said, Patrick, all I'll tell you is there were two versions of that paper, a classified and an unclassified. The public has the unclassified. And after I wrote them, I called everyone in my family and insisted to get every dollar out of the stock market. No one in my family has $1 in the stock market. She told me that in 2006. So the fact that these are strategically concentrated in stocks where it would be expensive to borrow, and if you wanted to short sell, you have to borrow the stock and short sell. If you have to pay a lot of money to do it, what people are doing is they're turning then to naked short selling as a way of just avoiding that high cost. And that's the only way you can explain that these failures to deliver show up in the high negative rebate stocks.
Patrick, I was, and I know him for a long time, and he's been in the fight with us, and he was the CEO, and it's John Berger, and he has the craziest story with proof from the SEC and FINRA in writing you have never seen before, I actually heard of, and I think John can explain it in 2 minutes. There's 65 or 70,000 investors. It's the craziest story that I think you can just let him tell you for 2 minutes, and I think you'll drop off your chair. Okay? Patrick Berger.
Hey, Patrick, good to meet you finally. I did an interview right when this thing first started with Al from Boston, and it was shortly after you had done one. And we talked a lot about how those four cornerstones of what happened to you happened to me twice when I was the CEO of my oil and gas company. So I lived it in real time, and it was no fun. And I will tell you, probably like your attorneys at the time, my SEC counsel was saying, keep your head down, do your business, it'll all be fine. Well, unfortunately, that's not the case. So we actually
lay back and think of England. You know that they used to tell women, British women, if they're sexually assaulted, don't fight it, lay back and think of England. It's an old Victorian expression. That's essentially what they were telling people like you and me. You just lay back and let it happen. There's nothing you can do.
Right. And I'm not that type of person. Sounds like you're not either. So anyway, long and short of it is that we had, I was the CEO of an oil and gas company that during COVID, when oil went negative, we had to find a solution for our shareholders. And that solution was to get a reprieve on our drilling obligations, but also to use our NASDAQ entity for our 4,000 shareholders at the time to, find some value for them somewhere. So we agreed to merge with a high-tech company out of Canada. And there were a lot of things we had to do and a lot of things they had to do. But the biggest key component of the definitive agreement was at closing, there was going to be a Series A preferred issued to all Torchlight holders such that we could preserve the value of our oil and gas assets. So basically, we got 25% of the new company, and we retained 100% of our assets. As you might expect, through that 6-month process leading up to that final days, we were heavily shorted, and our shareholder base went from 4,000 to about 65,000 shareholders. And our reported short position went from 4 million to about 55 million reported shorts on on S3 or through NASDAQ. Those are the reported ones. As you know, that's not an accurate number. And again, we had 165 million shares outstanding. And so the merger went through, the dividend was issued, the trading post-dividend went down as a lot of people expected. And then the stock was issued, the Series A preferred was issued to all the shareholders. Everything was fine and hunky-dory until about 4 months later. All of a sudden, the dividend started trading on the OTC market with no issuer involvement, no erroneous information on the OTC markets about me and my old management team from 2012. And basically, OTC markets said, I'm sorry, FINRA approved this. They gave us a ticker. We're going to trade it. And, oh, by the way, if you want to fix the information on OTC markets, go ahead. You know, we'll change it. I said, no, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. This is nefarious on its face, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. So, long and the short of it, Meta Materials, which took over management at the time, called FINRA, and they said there's nothing you can do about it. Two market makers got together and used an exemption. We thought it was 15C211. We later find out it wasn't. And the only exemption we can find is that they traded it over in Germany, surprise, surprise, and then moved it to the States because it was trading in Germany that didn't have to file a 211. So, again, all of the nefarious shit that goes on has happened in this deal, but in spades. So, fast forward about 2 or 3 months, Meta Materials announces instead of selling the assets and getting cash, they're going to spin out the assets into a private entity and file an S1 with the SEC to do that. And the S1 was filed because the SEC said that too many shareholders, the fact that it's trading, and for tax reasons, we want you to file an S1 and set up a Form 10. So we filed an S1 in July. That was the first iteration that was filed. At the same time, we notified FINRA, and all of the short positions that were in MMTLP at this time got the same notification. And we had to go through 4 iterations. It was during this time period that we started to uncover, some of the things that went on during the initial days of trading of MMTLP and why it even began to trade. And that was when we found out that the OCC, the Options Clearing Commission, issued a memorandum to the OCC market makers that they were not going to require the option positions to close out, or they were going to allow them to keep open a short position in the dividend. So as you know, if you're shorted common share and a dividend is paid, you owe the dividend as well. In this case, it wasn't cash, it was a share that they couldn't deliver. But the OCC issued a memo to market makers only that, hey, we're going to allow you to maintain this short until such time as we can find out if we can trade the dividend. On their document, we found it a year later, okay? So now we know that the OCC was in on it. Now we know the option market makers were in on it. And again, this didn't start trading options till June, a month before our close. And as you know, when there's no more shares to borrow or there's no more shares to naked short, they create a synthetic via put and call provision, and then they take that put and call married together, and they short against it. So long and the short of it, has created a massive short position in MMTLP. And we went through 4 iterations. FINRA had probably 120 days notice of the fact that we were going private. And then when the SEC approved the S1 and we request acceleration, we notified FINRA that, hey, these are the days we want to close this out. This is when we're going private. They ghosted us for 10 days. And that, all along, again, they've known about this for 4 months, right? Finally, the company just issued a press release and said, I'm sorry, FINRA, we're going with this. We don't want to go into another calendar quarter for accounting purposes and deal with this. So they issued a press release, gave the dates that it was going to be settled on. The last trading date was going to be the 12th. The shares were going to be canceled on the 13th, and on the 14th, and then new shares were going to be issued on the 14th to everybody who was an MMTLP shareholders. And those new shares were in a company called NextBridge Hydrocarbons. That was the name of the oil and gas assets, okay? It was all put into a company called NextBridge Hydrocarbons. So that was all pretty straight vanilla until FINRA got involved, and they decided finally, in public documents that they were going to approve a corporate action, but only if it was verbatim of what they gave us. And so they gave the attorneys verbatim what they wanted it to say. The first iteration was, basically that it's going to trade for 2 days. If you want to own NextBridge, you can trade it for 2 days and buy the stock. After those 2 days, it'd be position close only, and the trading will be done on the 12th. Actually, they said the trading would be done on the 12th would be the last day of trading, which allowed 2 days of settlement for DTC purposes, and even broker-to-broker clearing. They could have done all that with no problem. So they issued the corporate action, but DTCC said, no, we don't like this. This is wrong. You need to fix this. And they ghosted DTCC on a conference call that was supposed to happen the very next day. And I think this was the 8th that they finally issued another corporate action at 15 minutes before market close. And they basically changed one word from the ticker will be canceled to the ticker will be deleted. So keep in mind, through this whole process, DTCC did not give any information to the broker-dealers on what they're supposed to do. All right? And then that night, when we were all expecting it to trade the next day with position close only, meaning that the shorts were going to cover their stock, they halted it. And then they gave a U3 halt, which basically says that for extenuating circumstances and for clearance purposes, we're halting the stock. And I guess it was, fast forwarding 60, 90 days, someone got a FOIA request approved, and probably by mistake, they did not redact part of an email that said, yes, we've been monitoring this for quite some time. We actually blue sheeted MMAT and MMTLP because it showed up on our fraud radar, and we're looking into it, and then everything just got redacted to you know what. But the SEC was on that email, FINRA was on that email, DTCC, everybody. And what that tells us is that on the 5th of December, they had the blue sheets. They knew how far off sides they were. And then, first of all, they allowed it to trade for 2 more days, and then they halted it thereafter. So FINRA has now decided that they aren't going to disclose anything, right? So they've been sued by 3 or 4 different entities, and they've been hiding it behind their immunity. They've been hiding it, basically behind the 8 ball on this, and telling people. And then they put out a frequently asked questions, 10 questions about MMTLP, and we're disingenuous at best. We were doing a lot of effort with Congress, and then Congress brought in a guy by the name of James Angel to kind of tell them how the plumbing worked. Well, he neglected to tell everyone that his conflictions with all of the different market makers and hedge funds and things that he's done in the past, and his payment for order flow, all of these different things that he's conflicted with.
Patrick knows James Angel. He's out, I believe.
Yes, I do know Jim Angel. He's at Georgetown. I knew Jim Angel 15 years ago. Love the guy. He knows everything that needs to be known, but you put your finger on exactly what the issue is with Jim, and I'm not going to say anything more. Okay. But because I saw later he was involved in something, and he was saying stuff and he was helping in a law case the other side in a way that I already knew, because we had known each other a couple of years, that he already knew kind of, don't want to say better than what he was saying, but he was certainly shaping his testimony to help who his client was when he knew more about how things really went down than that, it felt. So we'd never, but he's a good man. He's a good man, but he...
But I want to say, John has got freedom of information. They shut down his stock. There's 60,000, 70,000 people who've been locked in. I've never seen anything like this. I've been doing this a long time. And these 4 people have been locked down. And Patrick, it's the way to describe it. These people joined the army, and they can't get out. They have to keep fighting to the end. I feel bad for them, but they're all trapped. They trapped them through Christmas. They trapped them for 140 days. And one thing that's coming out, Patrick, is they're going to get the blue sheet investigation that was in the freedom of information that they said they did already. So the proof will come out. I think there's 165 million dividends what's available, and they think the short could be $500 million. So Armageddon, as your term is, you use that word all the time. If they release that number, the shit's going to hit the fan. I do think that they will settle up. Patrick, you probably know more about what their feeling would be on that. Will they let that number out?
Yeah, Patrick, it's real important to understand that FINRA has admitted that their short positions were allowed to transfer into NextBridge Hydrocarbons. So NextBridge Hydrocarbons is filed in S1, so they are saying that it's a public company, but it does not have a QSIP, is not DTC eligible, and it was designed to go private. And so these guys, first of all, the Series A was never designed to trade. It was in the proxy and the shareholder vote that it wasn't going to trade. They traded it anyway. And then secondly, they basically now have admitted that there's a short position in NextBridge Hydrocarbons, and now NextBridge doesn't know who their shareholders are, and they have no corporate governance.
That's funny.
In a nutshell, Patrick.
Sorry.
Can I give you? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I said, we've all been doing this a long time. I've never seen you fought and spent $30 million to get one piece of paper. These people have fought and in a 2-month period got the freedom of information and know the thoughts of every regulatory body. In the emails, which is it's all over Twitter, it's just amazing that you can actually see their thought process, and they don't know what's going on, and yet they still, nothing's come out yet. So they think they hired West Christian, and they hired some other people to get the Blue Sheet investigation to get this number. We're getting close to Middle Earth, as you would say. That was one of your terms, I guess, down the road. But they're getting close to exposing this thing, and I do believe it's going to be earth-shattering because we've been fighting this a long time. I've never seen evidence like this before. And I'm just going to change it for 1 second now as you speak. There's another small company that I helped out, and the DTC, who hates everybody, okay, never said a positive thing. I have press releases back to 2006 where they were making fun of us. We were calling us crybabies because our stocks were naked shorted and they went down. They didn't believe it existed. The DTC put in a court document that a foreign broker has a concentrated short position in a small cap named GTII added a blue. I mean, I've never seen the name mentioned on the short side ever. Never seen that ever. Anyway, I'll let you speak, Patrick.
Interesting.
Yeah, so Patrick, we're at a point now where I think, what happened with MMTLP, it's going to play itself out, quite frankly. Whatever it's going to do, it's going to do. But more importantly, I think we're at a time where there's so much, the army of people on the internet that are so well educated now that are uncovering all of these aspects, and the fact that we can use MMTLP to benefit the entire system is what I think is, certainly we're going to get our justice, but I think the entire system needs an overhaul.
From your lips to God's ear.
Yeah.
Let me give you my response, though, and I think this is a general, because I don't know all. I walked out of this stuff 13 years ago and never looked back. When everything melted down in 08, 09, they called me. When they rounded up Raj Resmeritan and all those guys, I said, well, I've done my part, and this thing's all going to fall, or on its own. And they did, Anyway, I stopped paying attention for over 10 years. But I can tell you, I can summarize my experience with a joke. There's a joke about a guy who moves to New Town, and gets involved in a local poker game over at the local mayor's house. And there's some other town bigwigs over there, and they have a poker game every week, and he gets invited to play. He goes over and plays. And early in the night, he's got, 3 of a kind, and he bets up, he declares, and everyone else throws their hands down, and nobody has anything. But that local mayor, when he throws his hand down, he's got a 2, a 4, a 7, a jack, and a queen. He's got nothing. Not in the same suit, so he's got nothing. And he says, Bazumba. And the new guy starts raking the pot, and the mayor says, no, Bazumba. We have a special rule in this town that this is a 2, a 4, 7, jack, queen. That's a Bazumba. And it trumps every other hand you can have. And the guy looks around at the other people at the table, and they're all friends of the mayor, and they're all the other bigwigs in town. So they all nod. Yeah, this is Bazumba. This is a well-known rule here. This is how we play. And the guy reluctantly, he knows he's getting fleeced, but he says, he's not going to fight them all or whatever. So he says, oh, okay, pot's yours. And the guy takes the pot. Later in the night, hours later, in the wee hours of the morning, it's a 2, a 4, a 7, a jack, and a queen. So now we know he has the unbeatable hand of the night. And he just bets and bets, and he suckers everybody and bets this great big pot. And everyone declares and turns their cards over, and the mayor's got a pair of 2s, and the newcomer throws his hand down and shows it and says, Bazumba. And the mayor says, oh, no, sorry, there's another part of the rule. There's only one Bazumba allowed per evening. In other words, they're going to change the rules. And when you catch them, they just change the rules. And when you catch them on that and you keep on maneuvering them into a checkmate situation. Imagine playing chess with somebody that every time, just when you have them checkmated, they get to add a new row on the back of their chessboard, to mix metaphors, and they just get to create a new row, and now they have this checkmate. And no matter how many times you checkmate them, they're just going to say Bazumba and change the rules. That really was my experience, and I spent 2004 to 2010 talking to people like the 1,000 people assembled here, which I'm so flattered that would happen in 10 minutes. You guys would put together a call like this. But I walked away thinking I was actually somewhat lucky I got out with, but really I was in a game of Bazumba. And we had so many different checkmates on them, and we got this information and that information. We had all these different ways of proving it. But no matter what we got, they always have some way of crying Bazumba. And which you were, the thing they just did in the OTC market with the dividend payment, there's always some Bazumba that they bring on you. And just when you think it can't get any more ridiculous, they come up with a new Bazumba. So you just can't checkmate the people. That's where I left it in 2010. It sounds like the war has continued, and you've gotten more and more and more better information. What I'm telling you, though, at least how it worked 15 years ago, 3/4 of the revenue and the entire profitability of Goldman Sachs came out of this little crack in the market that 98% of the public just couldn't possibly understand. You start talking about option market maker exemptions and puts and calls and stuff, everybody's brain freezes up. So the public cannot even understand the crime, and that crime is responsible for the entire profitability of Goldman Sachs and the other big guys. I can tell you that when I started that war, a certain friend of mine in Omaha, who's a well-known financial guy, told me, Patrick, you can't possibly win this. You got to back out, and you can't possibly win this. And I said, I can't do that. Well, he sent someone to see me, a retired CEO of, it's been 20 years, I can tell you now, retired CEO of Solomon Brothers. He came up from Los Angeles to see me at his request, at my teacher's request, my rabbi's request. And we spent an hour, and he basically told me the same thing. And I said, well, how big is this? He said, well, Patrick, my recollection was all the CEOs on Wall Street know that their stock loan desks generate a hell of a lot of money, and they all know not to look too closely at it. And that was so what I'm saying, you may have them checkmated and you have all this information. At the end of the day, you're talking about the richest, wealthiest, most well-connected group in the country. This is their oxygen line. So at the end of the day, I'm not sure what evidence you ever get. These people really do all have senators and regulators on speed dial. And regulators in both parties and senators in both parties, they cover their bases. And it's like when you step into this world, you start realizing there is no rule of law. There's no rule of law whatsoever when it comes to this stuff. So I hope things are different, but I don't think the day's ever got. It remains to be proven to me whether there's ever a way to. I don't know. Wes Christian's been at it for 20 years, and I know he's had some success. But I keep on waiting for the monster case. It may sound like you have a monster case, or you think you have them backed into a corner, and the stock is finally going to reflect the fundamentals, and they do something like let the dividends start trading over the OTC. So I hate to be pessimistic, but I just want you to know this is what you're up against. The entire wealth revenue of the wealthiest people in the country, the wealthiest group in the world, really, and you're stepping on their oxygen hose. So they get frustrated. It can go on from there.
We don't step down from fight. That's what we have to fight. This is what our calling is. We're an army of people. We're getting stronger, and we're going to bring them down. That's what the fight is about. You were a fighter. I got it. You know, you got punched out a little bit. I'm only kidding. We will not stop, and I appreciate you, Patrick, your time. I don't want to drag you through all night because we keep talking, we keep fighting. But I appreciate
keep fighting.
Time,
Whatever happened to T0 and doing that dividend? I walked out of that. I thought there was no chance they were going to capture. They were going to delay that dividend. They delayed that dividend, and then when they were allowed 9 months later to do the dividend, I know there was some kind of OTC arrangement like you described, or a cash in lieu. What happened to just coming up with a dividend that is non-fungible?
Yeah. People are trying things and they're blocking them, and most companies, for example, Patrick, MULN, the automotive company, and he did exactly what he as a reference, you know, from force protection to DNDN to fear to the failed to deliver big charge to a deep capture movie. I posted so people can understand. The game is the same, the time is different, the names are different, but it's the same pattern. How they use Nuremberg twice to use lawyers, they use reporters to write to write negative stories against you. It's the same thing, and just to speed, Patrick, the short attack Carl Icahn today, they went after him. A few months ago, Chanos went after DeVito, which is a Warren Buffett big holding, they called it a fraud. The stock doubled in value since he did that. So they got up the ladder, they killed all the small guys, and now they went after the big boys. So,
you know, that's just what happened. That's just what happened, by the way. The real origin of this, my understanding, was in the late 90s during the internet bubble. There were a bunch of, the SEC couldn't be everywhere at once, and they kind of turned a blind eye to hedge funds going after a bunch of the internet and the penny stocks, especially anything penny stock. And then after that, by around 2003 or 2004, they had moved their way up the food chain until they got to a little $200 million internet company, mine. And then they really just continued up the food chain since then. But it is a different time. I don't want to discourage you. I wanted to give you my real warning, but I don't want to discourage you because it is such a different time. Back when we were fighting this, it was myself and about half a dozen people from the message boards that I called the Pajama Hadeen, because everyone was at home in their pajamas on the, you know, like the Mujahideen, only they were at home in their mommy's basement on their pajamas. And we fought this together, but it is a different world. You got social media now, you got millions of people who understand this. And you also have a different, I think we have a United States population where 75% of people are open to the possibility because, you know, so it is, the zeitgeist is quite different than 20 years ago when we were fighting it. I will point out, I don't want to go into, everyone may or may not know my current activities, which I had no plan on getting involved in, but the similarity between the fight that you're in now and this election fight I'm in are extraordinary to me, because we're talking about an institution that everyone in society trusts, and no one knows how it really works, this stock settlement thing. But you figure that when you sell stock and I buy it in the market, the public has a rough idea, like under the hood, your money's coming to my account, my stock's going to your account. Well, as you get into it, you realize it works nothing like that, and that the institutions that people are trusting to effect settlement are corrupted, and there's so much slop in the system. And then that's, people have figured out how to use those loopholes that might have been put in there for a good reason to actually affect fraud. And to me, what I'm going through is, I think that when you dig into how the election system works, it works nothing like anyone thinks it works. It's like a Rube Goldberg contraption, even worse than our stock settlement system. And there's far more opportunities for fraud. And I'm saying that, and the reaction, it's just a microcosm. Well, it's a repeat of what I went through 15 years ago, that people are saying, no, you can trust this social institution, and all the media and all the forces, the law and the government all want to quash you if you even question this institution. But once you dig into the stock settlement, you can't believe that it actually is as loosey-goosey as it is. And so you're absolutely right. It's a social, to me, this is like the stock settlement system is like, there were a hospital, the nursery, where after they give birth to babies, you put the babies. You would want that room to be the most secure, the most clean, the very best people. You would want that to be the most on the spot place in the hospital. And we actually discover it's Tony, Louie, and Vinny, everybody. It's incredibly a mishmash of, it's so imprecise. So imprecise. So, God bless you all. Thank you for fighting the fight you're in. I can tell you this, although I did not vote for 45 either time. We're allies, shoulder to shoulder now, and if that gentleman gets back into power, I suspect that I'm going to have the opportunity to have a voice in a new administration, and I'm going to tell them the first thing we have to fix in our hospital is that place where we're holding the babies, and that place is full of a bunch of bad guys. We got to clean it up. Like, the first thing we have to fix in our country, besides, at this point, elections, is stock settlement. So in 18 months, and literally I've been told that if he's back in, people are going to listen to me. And all I want to talk about is stock settlement. So if you can just hang on for 18 months, the one thing I want to do I'll close on this note. Other than sit on a farm with animals, I don't want to do anything the rest of my life other than sit on a farm with animals, with one exception. And that is, if Donald Trump gets back in power, and I'm not saying that, I don't want to be too political, but I'm acknowledging I didn't vote for him either time. If he gets back in power, I'm going to raise my hand to say, let me come in and we're going to fix this one issue in America. And so... And all this money has been taken from you folks. Milton Friedman said there's no such thing as a free lunch. When they make money this way, it comes from other people. It comes from, the savings of America, the pension funds, everything's been looted. That money can be recaptured if we can just force settlement. It's all been captured and turned into mansions in the Hamptons. But we literally could be... Anyway, so we're all on the same page about how important this is. I wish you luck. If you can keep up, you do have much more mass than I ever had. It was myself and Gary Valinati. Gary, was that your voice? Was that Gary's voice I heard?
He's not on the phone.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard one voice earlier that sounded like Valinati. It was a small number of activists, but there was no social media in 05, really, worthy of the name. But you have a big advantage over. Now, I wonder if Twitter, just like it's social media outlawed, discussing COVID and discussing vaccines and discussing election integrity. If the day ever comes that on social media they outlaw discussing settlement failures, then we might be in real trouble.
Can I ask you a question, Patrick? Patrick, may I ask you a question?
I'll take 3 questions. How about us?
All right. I want to ask a broad question. I'll be quick because I know this seems like they are imitating the fractional reserve banking system. They're moving it over to securities. Is there a way to fix it without it all collapsing? Are we massively leveraged so our financial system is weak? And is there one thing in your mind that we could do while we wait those 18 months?
It sounds like you're doing it. The public pressure and the political pressure. There are people in D.C. There's people associated with this weaponization of government committee who might be willing to look into this. What congressmen are you folks talking to that are offering any assistance? Are there any?
Anna's next. I was down there with Anna, but she can fill you in. We're talking to the House Finance Committee and the Senate Finance Committee, but Anna's the spearhead.
Go ahead.
Really quick, let me clarify before Anna comes on. Patrick, we have found that we have nefarious actors that listen to our space calls, and they know who we're talking to. So we've actually refrained from saying their names on air because they are going to them. For example, Professor Angel.
And that set them back because they were saying, no, you just need to get Next Bridge to trade again. And, I feel like they were willing to help us, but then it got to be when they were trying to hijack what was going to happen. So I think effectively what I've found out is that these lobbyists, and I think that needs to start at a governmental level. I don't know. There's like a convention of states where we can ask that there's term limits for our Congress people, and there needs to be limits on what they can collect from lobbyists. They shouldn't go into politics to get wealthy, and that's what I have found out that is essentially needs to change on both sides.
Yeah, well, there's a lot that needs to change. I can tell you this, if you're dealing with those 2 committees, if you were the bad guys in this scenario, and you went to Washington with $100 million to buy some politicians, who are the first politicians you would buy? You would buy the ones on those committees. You can get nowhere working through those committees. Absolutely nowhere. The Republican and Democrat, to the extent that the first people they try to buy are the Senate Banking and House Financial Services Committee. And I even was dealing, I'll tell you now, because is Domenici still a senator from New Mexico?
No.
Pete Domenici?
No.
Okay. I went to see him about 3 times, and I brought economists, traders, people who could explain inside out, answer all these questions. He's a very good guy. I like Pete Domenici, Senator Domenici, Democrat. And finally, the 3rd time I left, his chief of staff, who was a retired Morgan Stanley guy, pulled me aside. He was very polite, and he said, he was taking pity on me to tell me this. He was like, I can tell, Mr. Byrne, you're getting really frustrated because you're explaining us this stuff, and the senator just nods, and you're wondering why isn't anything we've done. Let me explain. For each time you're in here talking to us, Goldman Sachs and Bear Stearns and Morgan Stanley, they're in here 10 times telling the senator to ignore everything you had to say. And you know what? How it works, and it turns out how it works is, well, you don't need to be told all the different ways money can enter politics. And you get you get a meeting with a senator, and you're all excited, and then 3 days later you get a phone call saying, oh, by the way, from a staffer saying, by the way, the senator wanted you to know his brother-in-law is having a golf fundraiser down in such and such a town in his home state, and he's sure hoping you can contribute $25,000 and play a foursome, and even if you can't play the four, I was hoping he'd make that contribution to his brother-in-law's fundraiser. And once you stop doing that, you stopped getting the meeting. So anyway, but I'll never forget this chief of staff kind of taking pity on me and saying, basically, stop wasting your time. Every time you're in here talking to Senator Goldman, Morgan Barron here 10 times, telling him not to listen to you. So you're banging your head on a dead.
And you think that's something that a president can fix? Or, like, I think it just needs to be fixed. Like, we're the 99.5% that they're stealing.
I'm here. Yeah, a president can fix that. A president can fix that. A president can fix that. Donald Trump will fix that. I'll tell you, the last words I heard from Donald Trump when I left were, that famous night in December 18th, was like, if I get another term, I'm not going to say exactly, but I think he means business, and he could change all this. I said if he gets in. I mean, I don't know if he knows the first thing about this, although my suspicion is he does, because if you really want to go back into history, something funny happened in 2007 when the entire world was crapping on me. And the New York Post, the New York Times, they were writing story after story about how I was this whack job who thought that there was a conspiracy going between the two people broke. One of them was Bloomberg News. It was quite surprising. Bloomberg News did a little half-hour documentary called Phantom Shares that was, I think it was nominated for an Emmy, and you can still find it out, Phantom Shares. But also Trump Magazine. Trump used to have a magazine, this very glossy magazine, and out of nowhere, they wrote a very favorable article about me when the entire world was crapping on me. In 2007, Trump Magazine wrote this very favorable article. It's one of the only two, and I don't know if Donald Trump had anything to do with it. It would not surprise me, because Trump, while a billionaire, is not a Wall Street guy, and he probably feels about Wall Street like I feel about it. A lot of rich guys who didn't make their money on Wall Street, we all kind of think that Wall Street are a bunch of, it's necessary, but there's a bunch of gonifs there. So my guess is Donald Trump knows all about this issue, because his magazine in 2007 did a very favorable story, and it was only one of two favorable stories on me in a 3-year period. So that's another reason he could definitely fix this if he gets back in. And it's putting those facts together, which suggests to me, I think if he could get back in and fix this issue and knew that if it would clean up, that Wall Street was really making its fortune off this, we would do something about it.
Let's go with Savvy. You have the mic.
Hi, Patrick. Thank you so much for being here. Of fair market activists, and so we really appreciate you joining our call today. I wanted to let you know, we, as well as being well organized and motivated, as well as educated, we have recently started an organization called Retail United Advocacy Group. And I think one of the initiatives that we talked about is very much what you just spoke about, is how do we get a seat at the table? How do we get a seat at the conversation with Congress people? So one of the things that we're doing is we're starting this organization and hopefully building the funds so that we can have a seat at that table. Again, it's called Retail United Advocacy Group, and we would love it if you would work with us so that we can get a voice. Even if it does take money, we know money takes, that's how you get a seat at the table. And we're ready, willing, and able to do it. But we would really appreciate your support. We are the next generation of activists, and we're more motivated than ever. We know how incredibly dangerous this is to not only our economy and our markets, but to our national security and our standing in the world. And so just want to let you know that we've taken that next step, and we are in the beginning stages. Of course, it started with MMTLP, but we've got approximately 24 tickers involved at this point. And we're growing fast, and we're going to move fast. But especially if you have a position and a potential next administration, that would be fantastic. I'm sure we'd love to come in and have a conversation with the president.
Junk savvy.
I love that, but I think I can do better for you right now. It just occurred to me. So first of all, I want to tell you that over the last year, as I've learned that there's this, I didn't even know that there was this grassroots movement. And people have gotten in touch with me and saying, don't you know, Patrick, you're kind of this OG of this movement. And I thought
no idea what OG means.
I thought there was that crazy period I went through would be forgotten to history. It's kind of funny, but there was a guy who went through it with me. He's a professor of economics at Dartmouth. His name's John Wellborn. And he actually got his PhD as this was going on, and he was doing it at George Mason, and he was doing work for the law firms that we hired, but he's a real technical, econometric, speaking Greek letter kind of finance guy. He ended up doing his PhD on the concept of regulatory capture and how this whole naked short selling, failure to deliver issue was like the perfect lens to, if you ever wanted to see regulatory capture at work, what we're looking at. He went on and became a professor at Dartmouth and has kept his hand. He knows this issue at the most technical, molecular level possible. He knows, he's on staff at Dartmouth College in the economics program. His last name is Wellborn, Welborn. I'm sure he's quite reasonable. He has this huge body of knowledge. If you ever want, to involve somebody who can speak their language, their problem is they bring in guys like Jim Angel. In the middle of my fight with Wall Street, a bunch of hedge funds went to Yale and Penn, and they gave multi-million dollars to create a chair of hedge fund studies at Yale. I mean, that's not its literal name, but they literally created a professorship for the study of hedge funds, and they appointed one of their schmucks in it, and they did the same thing at Penn with a couple. And so then those people would generate papers that said, "Oh, none of this is true. None of this is true." Well, if you ever want someone who's in that world, an academic economist who can debunk to the toes the work of the other side, the economists on the other side, you get in touch with John Wellborn. He has the best accumulated body of knowledge in this field that of anyone I've seen. If I were to go to Congress and make an argument tomorrow, John Wellborn's the guy I would bring with me over any lawyer. That's just one name I wanted to give you. You might want to reach out to him.
Yeah, absolutely, Patrick. Will do. But just want to reiterate, if you happen to get a position in an administration in 18 months, hopefully you'll answer the door when we come knocking. So.
Well, I will, but you'd be the first. I can tell you, I already have said the only position I want is I want a card table in the basement with a card that says assistant janitor, and I would bring in I'll bring in professors who can talk, but you won't ever see me in a position. But I would certainly, if there was really one thing I would want to help my country with at this point, other than election integrity, which to me is like air, that it would be solving this issue. I think that there's actually. Well, funny you said national security. I'll end on this note. I made when I finally made progress was when some people actually in the Pentagon and the Irregular Warfare Support Group started reading Deep Capture, and I got asked to come in and talk, and I came into a talk, and there were 80 people, and 40 of them were generals and admirals, and 40 of them were civilian equivalents, and I explained all this. Then they had me come back and do another talk in more detail, and I was emphasizing the national security, that we have this enormous national security risk, and I'm not entirely sure that this is not part of the takedown of the United States. I think there may be. I think that this money that's being looted, this has been going on from Europe for a long time. It's like the Europeans are just draining trillions of dollars out of the USA through the system. Wherever you dig into this, once you dig in past the banks here, you start coming on really nefarious European connections. So, people, East Europe kind of people. So, anyway, I'll stop there. It's a big deal, and getting national. Well, when I finally got some movement was when the national security people understood it. And I gave a talk. It's up on YouTube. I did a non-classified version of the talk. For the public, I gave a classified version that was not. But on YouTube, there's a talk called Economic Warfare, Transnational Crime and Economic Warfare, Patrick Byrne. And that talk, there's huge national security implications. If you go to the crash of 2008, before the crash, it turns out there were all kinds of actors over here. Like in the mortgage crisis, there were all kinds of actors from, I won't say the communities anymore, but that seemed to have been involved in that. It seems like it was a big setup. So good for you to harp on the national security aspects, and maybe that is, well, with this administration, yeah, I guess all bets are off when it comes to that. But anyway, I'm looking forward to trying to. This is an issue I would fix in the first week if I had a chance to. Have a good result in 18 months.
Well, thank you, Patrick. Again, we really appreciate all your work. We've had the opportunity to listen to and converse with Christina Copeland, and you were featured prominently in her Wall Street Conspiracy, and we appreciate you getting the ball rolling and setting the standard.
I don't think he
we're
enjoys
ready,
the
willing,
suck
and able
up.
to carry that torch. And so we'd love it if we could keep the dialogue open with you.
She does have a great
and learn
voice.
from your expertise. So thank you again for being here.
She has a great
Please do, and
voice.
don't forget to call John Wellborn up at Dartmouth. He's a guy.
Nope, I've already got his information ready to go. So we'll definitely be making that phone call.
Thank you.
Patrick, thanks for your time, and everyone have a great night. Patrick, thank you again. Have a good night.
Take care, G. Take care, all.
Thank you, Patrick. All right, Abbott. You got the mic. Let me get set up here.
Yeah, I wanted to ask him one thing. It's all good though. Really appreciate Patrick's time. I mean, even though if he doesn't love the OG statement, a lot of what, Ham put me onto and a lot of how I, got started on social media here was through him. And I tried really hard to go back and put up all the posts on the nest that
She's
he was
great.
talking
I'm
about.
not
From,
saying anything
128%
bad,
of Bear Stearns was traded, the Goldman lending, you could scroll through with the Leslie Bonnie.
I would have
and
liked if he had
exposing
answered
fraud.
a little
We
more of my
talked about it all.
question, but
That's how
I
got a
deferred to
presence
Anna,
here.
so
Learned a lot from Patrick,
which is
and,
great
he's
by me.
absolutely incredible. Ham as well, just really showing me the ways and again the right way to go about it. So appreciate Ham, of course, for laying the groundwork, laying the foundation for me to have a platform, and again all the effort that Patrick has done publicly. It's great to know that if certain parties get into power, that he would have a big voice there and possibly make some real change. So it's great to have close friends here, and it's exciting. Look at the amount of progress we're making. I told Busy this a couple weeks ago. Now it's a couple months ago. Look at the people we're involving ourselves with. Look at the people we're surrounding ourselves with. Whether it's Mark or Wes or Ham. It's all over the place. So when I always say these bad actors and all these individuals trying to come in and talk nonsense, ask them, what are they doing? What are you doing for the stock? What are you doing for the movement? And odds are it's not much. So I'm gonna stay muted for a little bit, but I really love listening to Patrick talk and articulate and go back in the past. I really want to have him on my channel so we can go into all those things he was talking about, like Dendrio and force protection, the United Airlines naked shorting. I mean, it's been going on for, I don't know, probably since the 70s, maybe even earlier than that. So at least 50 years. So it's definitely something where I want to take a trip down memory lane, but just love the dialogue here. All incredible wealth of knowledge. And again, thanks to Busy for always hosting just fire space calls. Really appreciate that. William as well. I'm going to be more a listener. I will be on here, obviously, but I'm going to stay muted for the most part. But again, just love the energy in here. Massive amount of people, 1,400, huge turnout in such a short time. Really can't ask for anything better. Really appreciate all the company that I'm sharing tonight.
Thank you, Abbott. MD.
Can't hear him.
Chime in. Go ahead.
Can't hear him.
William, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. You faded out. I didn't know you called on me, but yeah, that was terrific. I tried to pour out my question quickly. I wish he had gotten back to part of it, because I think part of his message, and if for any of you guys that have studied him, which I have, or Dr. Susan Trimblath, which I have, or just listened to Ham fighting for 25 years, there's an aspect of this where it might be so embedded in the system. If we asked as a group, apparently, for 1% of our cash back from the banks would collapse as a total population. And I worry a little bit that the two subjects that he brought up, one I would have followed up with. One is regulatory capture, and the other is how pervasive this fraud is. Is it 10%, or is it multiplied 100 to 1? Is it all fake shares so the system can't be fixed without collapsing? But I was really encouraged. And I've told everyone, I'm a Democrat. I've never voted Republican in my life, but I voted for Trump twice. So that puts me in this no man's land in my life. But I'm so thrilled to hear, and I like RFK Jr., but I'm so thrilled to hear that if we can get Trump back in, this would be the first issue that Patrick Byrne would bring to him. There is no more important issue. Junk Savvy is correct. It's a national security issue. But think of all the companies that would give jobs in the Rust Belt, in the cities, to minorities, and maybe a few for white men too, but to women. If our over-the-counter markets weren't orphaned and ignored and allowed to fleece, and then on top of that, when Joe Biden asks waitresses and people who spend $600 on Venmo to pay taxes, what if we got these criminals to pay the taxes they owe on these ill-gotten gains? I think it's trillions of dollars. So I thought that was the most encouraging thing I heard. I would have loved to have heard what we can do next, because I was down there with Anna, and I'm sure she can talk next. But I think we did make traction with a lot of people, she in particular, with a lot of people on Capitol Hill. But I do agree that that's where the money goes. But our message can't be hidden. Junk Savvy's point about whatever it's called, retail, I'll join it. I just can't remember the name right now. I don't think we can be stopped. So anyway, I'll leave it there. I thought it was a great call. Busy, you were great. Ham was great. Avid was terrific. Junk Savvy and Anna were all pounceable in the sense of a dog pouncing on a toy. It was fun. It was great. So I'll be quiet. Thank you.
Thank you, William. I'm going to send it to Anna, and then we'll go to Savvy, Curtis, and Pedro. Go ahead, Anna. You have the mic.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry if I pounceable. I've been listening to him. Yeah, can you hear me?
Anna?
Yeah.
She's talking. I don't think you can hear.
Okay, I'm going to drop down.
I'll drop and come back then.
No, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Busy can drop and come back, Anna. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was a little pounceable because I was so excited. I remember listening to him a while back, and when he was talking about sitting before the 7 or 8 members of Congress, and he had them condensed, and then the one person who was, I guess, the chairman at that time came back and basically, reneged on what they had said they were going to do for him, which was to fix these markets, and nothing ever happened. So I was excited to ask him about that. And, unfortunately, I don't think much has changed in our politics since then. I think our politicians are all bought and paid for from these hedge funds. And I think that that's something, needs to be cleaned up throughout our government. And so I was excited to hear about that. And it was just an exciting call. So I wanted to chime in on that. And William, everything you said, I agree on. It was an exciting call for sure.
Thank you, Anna. Let's go to Savvy. You have the mic.
Hey, William, thank you for your comments. I actually think it's even bigger than national security. I think this goes to the heart of America and who we are. America was built on grit, determination, and innovation. And what this system is doing is robbing this country of its innovation and destroying its innovation. And I agree with Patrick. there are nefarious actors throughout the world that are trying to take this country down. They don't like that we've had the influence in the world that we have, and it is a concentrated power within a small group of people. And if you zoom out and look at what's being done,
Brad, I
you can see
agree
the
with you,
playbook.
Brad,
And
but
I truly
I'm not going to read
believe
it out.
that taking down our markets and our financial system is absolutely part of that playbook. Because what they do is when you are poor and impoverished and you have nowhere else to go but to depend on the government, that's how they control you. And so, yeah, you're correct. The jobs in these companies, but even more so, it's the American innovation that really have driven this country and created the power that it had in such a young country. And that is truly what is being stripped away from us. And that, for me, who from the beginning of the foundations of this country have had family members fighting in the military, officers, teachers, I find it truly devastating, and it really does break my heart. And I think that's why I'm so driven, and I think that the time is different. I appreciate that Patrick recognized that this is not 2006 when Christina started filming the Wall Street Conspiracy. I do think that things have changed, and I think that there is a grassroots movement within this country that recognizes the trouble that we're in and is ready, willing, and able to fight. And I'm very, very proud to be part of this community. I think we were born in the right time and put in this place for this purpose. And I'm just very grateful to be part of this. Sorry, guys, second time today. I'm just very patriotic. I just have a very patriotic soul, and I really do think this is an attack on our country and an attack on the American people.
I want to quickly comment, Busy. Sorry, just quickly comment two things. One is, Junk Savvy, what you're addressing is capital formation. We used to have vibrant over-the-counter markets as recently as 20 or 30 years ago. They don't exist anymore. So the monopoly of capital formation is these big banks. And I just saw Drew Diligence, and I want to give him great credit for all the work, hard work he's doing in Congress and in these chats. That's it.
Thank you. Let's go to Curtis, Pedro, and then we go to Drew. Curtis, you have the mic.
Hey, I just wanted to piggyback on what Junk said. And by the way, fantastic space as always. It's wonderful to have Patrick be able to kind of weigh in and hear our situation. I think really for the second or third time. He's heard it in a couple, like Al from Boston space that was hosted, but hearing some dedicated storytelling from John and understanding the situation that he's obviously empathetic to, and then shedding light for anybody that wasn't familiar with Patrick's fight against naked short selling. I think it's invaluable experience that he shared, and maybe the most valuable takeaway is a recommendation from someone that has been at the ground floor, at ground zero, fighting this for years and years.
I say I'll stop talking, and then I keep going.
He didn't ultimately sacrifice his wealth.
It's easy for you to say, Ted Williams. You're going to be a wealthy man.
Is amazing, and to have a recommendation with, I believe it was John Wellborn of Dartmouth, is amazing. Somebody to help counteract the James Angels of the
Dry
world
your
that
eyes, mate.
are in the pocketbooks of these hedge funds, these market makers.
Dry your eyes,
Sheila.
Sheila.
And so I thought that was absolutely invaluable. And I appreciate him coming full circle. Him talking about strategically. Unfortunately, all these nefarious
You know what's
players,
funny?
Nothing
I
that we
agree
didn't
with him
already know,
100%.
and that has
I'd love to
recently
have
been
a farm
confirmed that these
and
politicians
animals,
are in,
and
the
then just
pocketbooks
do
of each
help
of these
people,
hedge
but I would
funds,
just like
market
to
makers.
be with animals.
But
What a gift animals
when we
are.
collectively add the pressure, this is a dramatically different scenario than in 2008 and 2007 and 2006. When we collectively bring and educate not just the people that are here, not just the investors that are here, but educate everyone on how this impacts them, whether they realize it or not, whether it's the impact to your country, to your patriotism, to your financial standing.
it does impact everybody to varying degrees, but it absolutely has impact. And I think that's something that should resonate. I know
He's got good points. He's got very good points.
To media, but it's not really been published as that angle. This is not
We don't say
MMTLP
mate,
story.
mate.
It's not a GTII story. This is
You know what I mean, mate? We don't say
corruption
mate.
and market manipulation and how it's robbing the American economy.
We say dude,
of a wealth generation
pal.
system. So it's I think that narrative is huge and just can't echo enough what Junk just stated as well. But thanks, Busy.
That's great.
Thank you, Curtis. Let's go to Pedro. You have the mic.
Pedro's great.
Pedro, you there?
Well, mate,
Yeah, I'm here.
you should say mate, mate.
What's yours?
You know what I mean? Isn't it? Mate's a good word, isn't it?
It's great hearing Patrick Bird speak.
But if, Wolfie, if you're from the UK, you don't say Sheila. But if you're from Australia, you say Sheila. And you wouldn't call a girl a mate, you'd call her a Sheila, I think.
The one part I just wanted to kind of reiterate and point out again.
I like Pedro.
In all this, I don't know if you guys all think this, but I always say, why isn't that nobody stood up within Wall Street, the inside of Wall Street. We don't have one vocal advocate, and I'm not talking specifically MMTLP.
You're like my sister. They don't. She doesn't like words like brekkie.
And how the buy button was pulled and the naked shorting. If you really think about it, we don't have a single advocate. We don't have. You would think maybe the Johnson family from Fidelity. You think they'd raise their hand and be an advocate, or
there's no crying in short selling.
Vanguard.
There's no crying in naked short selling.
Warren Buffett, maybe. It's crickets, right? And the reason why it's crickets is you listen to what Patrick said about.
You call your girlfriend mate?
Basically a prime brokerage.
Have you looked down there, mate?
In terms of the profitability.
Just kidding. Don't get down. Don't get mad.
Money is made in this racket, and it's every single part.
Well, you know.
Of Wall Street, right? It's the
you know, there's everybody calls their girlfriends bruh now, bruh. Bruh. Like obla-dee, obla-da, life goes on, bruh. Everyone calls them that now. So I guess.
Every aspect of the market, and when you hear
Jared, my sister hates the word brunch. And munch. She hates the word munch.
On the revenues or net profits or whatever. It's a significant of enough of a business that it's the same for a lot of
where the opposing culture wants to be gay. We did all this for a culture war?
We're
I don't know.
And that's how big this is. That's how entrenched this is. And
You got to let everybody live their lives.
Commercials.
Oh, you're generic in Australian. Sheila.
And trying to put us into a,
mate.
They categorize
Sheila mate, you're a generic mate.
Stock. It's a corruption stock. It's a stock it has nothing to do with any of that. But they compartmentalize all that. But I just want to make sure everybody really paid attention to Patrick talking about just how much money is
I know, Moody.
lending
We heard
something
you.
other people own and getting paid for it. Think about it. It's literally, you can take stocks that somebody owns and you can lend it out, and it's 100% profit, right? Whatever you're charging on a monthly basis in terms of a VIG, that's it. So nobody inside the cabal wants anything to change, and that's why this is so.
That's why I asked my question, but he didn't get a chance to answer it.
In two tiny little companies, MMTLP and GTII. Where you clearly have smoking guns. I mean, it's obvious. And
Moody.
That's going to turn out.
Oh,
to be
Moody,
a
are
very
you?
powerful thing, but I think Patrick put it into really.
I thought you were a man, mate.
Where these tentacles
But anyway,
go,
you sound like a man on the phone
business model
because of
all of these stocks.
because
And
of
all
it.
the brokerages
Anyway,
are shitting their pants because
I'm so glad
they
you
sell
can talk.
IOUs.
Even though it's not the
It's
perfect
a problem
way, but
if
it's so
this
great.
stuff needs to be
Imagine
reconciled.
if that had
But I
happened
just wanted to make sure people really
200 years ago. You couldn't
noticed
talk.
how
So
remarkable and what he talked about in terms of Goldman Sachs and just how big stock lending is.
Thank you, Pedro. Let's go to Drew and then James Bond. Drew, you have the mic.
So I think
Good evening, everybody.
I'm going to leave in
This
10
is
minutes
PeterTosh
from
in
this.
Space. From what I heard, it was just really a good renewal, revitalization of what our efforts are here. I'm going to make it crystal clear, ladies and gentlemen, a power greater than us has oppressed us. And we've got to fight back. And we've got to fight back together. We've got to fight back collectively. And we have to be concerted about the actions that we take. We're very lucky to have people like John Berta standing with us. He doesn't have to. We're very lucky to have people like William standing with us. He doesn't have to. And I want to thank William for his kind words. We're very fortunate to have the group of people that we do that is kind of the powering of this engine when it comes to people like
This was
Curtis,
historic,
when it comes
mate.
to people like
Why
Anna,
don't we call our
when it comes to
horse
people
Sheila,
like
mate?
100 CEO, you know, Jack
Her name is
Finney,
Sheila, mate.
puts in countless
You know what I
hours
mean, mate?
trying to keep everybody rallied. Jorel, Marduk, and I could go on and on and on. And
Australia
of
is a
course,
great
Young
country.
Savvy,
I visited
very
it once,
passionate,
and it was amazing.
about this, and that's the advantage that we have. They underestimated us. They underestimated
Well,
our
who said
intelligence.
that?
They underestimated our drive.
I want to see who
and
said
they
that. Moody
underestimated
Waters,
our
there's a
will
power
to
greater
fight
than the
back.
power that has oppressed us. I really,
And to
I,
see this
not
effort
always,
kind
but
of
I
take
feel help from above
new
on this
shapes
issue.
as we
So
go along truly
I
is
think you're right,
inspirational.
Moody.
So I want to thank everybody. Um,
Oh,
if you
John
look back
Berta
from where we
answered my
started to where
question
we are
earlier.
now, we're all more educated. We're all more passionate.
John's
and
a
we're
great
all
guy
even
too.
full of even more conviction than we were when we took that original investment. Now, when you think
Yes,
about that from
Wolfie,
the
you pulled the
MMTLP
birds, but I don't
shareholders'
think you
point of
pulled
view,
Sheila's.
given what we've had to go through the last 5 months, that is an amazing accomplishment. So I applaud all of you for that.
But you
And
know,
I
we
implore
call
all of
some
you
of us,
to keep up the
when
pressure,
we're
keep
being
up the action,
inappropriate,
keep pushing the ball forward.
call
To steal
women
the phrase from
chicks.
Curtis.
I don't do it anymore, but we used to.
Today,
But I
we had
do
a
say
fantastic
sometimes chicks
conversation with
dig it.
PeterTosh and Fernando Valle of Bloomberg.
Oh, Pico's Blill is great.
Bloomberg Markets.
Yeah,
Bloomberg
John Berta is
Financial
for real.
Gave us some great insight into the Permian Basin and with respect to the Oro Grande. We had a great discussion there. It was
3BX993243. I don't
recorded.
know
And
who
tonight,
else has
there
that
will
as
be
a
a
ticker.
discussion, a fireside chat. We're bringing it back, ladies and gentlemen, with the one and only Houston Wade. He'll be joining at 5 o'clock Pacific time.
So Vegeta,
Stay
my
engaged.
question was
Learn about each other.
superfluous. I
Learn
hate
more
that,
about the asset that you
being
invested into, whether it's GTII
wasting
or it's
people's time.
MMTLP.
But
That knowledge is a weapon.
what's that? If I said chicks dig it,
And
I'd
the
get
more knowledge that you have,
laughed at.
whether it's related to the market mechanics of how this thing was listed, or whether it's related to the underlying asset, the more knowledge we have,
So Wolfie,
the further we'll be able to propel
one time,
forward.
I think I told this
And
story
all
on
that
a
propulsion is a direct
call,
result
but
of
Wolfie, one time I was
and what
walking
you've
in
done
the
to
city
educate yourself
with a
and the
capital
actions
C,
that you've
you know,
taken
the city.
subsequent
I
to
had a
having that
very
knowledge.
important meeting
So
at
thank you
some
all very
private
much
men's
for
club.
everything. Busy, thank you again for hosting this space. I'd like to thank Patrick Byrne, even though he's not here. I'd like to thank him for coming and sharing his experience. I'd like to thank John Berta. And I'm really, I mean, more than anything, I want to thank the over 1,000 people that listened into this conversation. That is serious numbers. We are regularly hitting
So
second
I
and third
was,
highest numbers on all Twitter spaces.
that
says something.
we
are powerful. People are
going
hearing
to this
us.
meeting at
People
a
are noticing,
fancy
and
club.
people
I was
are
invited
scared,
by
and
a
they should
banker,
be.
and
Because
so I was
together
in a
we're gonna
big,
win.
big hurry because I had to take the
That's it.
tube
Thank you very much, Busy.
from
Thank you, Joe.
South Ken,
James Bond.
but I didn't
This is
live in
James.
South
Thank you
Ken.
for
I had
patiently
anyway. I had
waiting
to.
out the
Yeah, it took forever to get there. And hey, Jerome Greenberg.
Gets paid off. Who really cares? A conviction needs to be made in order for the deck or the house of cards to start to fall. That's what's going to scare people. That's where it's going to start to change.
Yeah, but my fear is we're not going to make money.
When you have deep pockets, who really gives a crap? You know, silence these people, pay someone off.
So anyway, I was in a hurry there, Wolfie, and I was running, I was going, and there's all these people, and
I agree with you 100%.
these
I always said, you know, you go rob a bank,
these two
you get fined $1 million.
workmen, they were painters, they were wearing white
market.
outfits. One was really big. He was built like a rugby player. The other was more my size. But they were walking so slowly. And I couldn't get around them because of the crowd. And I had to get going. And then the light, if they had moved, I could have gotten across the zebra walk. And I just got so upset. I said, get the fuck out of the way. I'm sorry I said that. Out of the way. And I cut across, and then they followed me. So, I thought I was being clever. I cut through a post office, but I was booking. I was going quickly. I was trying to get to this meeting. And so I get 2 blocks away, and I feel this pat on my shoulder, and I turn around, and it's the big guy with his sidekick, and he says, "Excuse me, mate, what is it that you said to me back there?" And I went, and he was all ready to. He was ready to fight with. He was angry, really angry. He said, "Mate, what was it you said back there? I mean, were you insulting me?" And I said, "Oh, no. I just told you to have a nice day." And he looked at me and he said, "Oh, right." And he turned and walked off. Ah, thank God.
But that's a different spaces call.
I know I just did say a bad word. I apologize to all the women and to all the children. I really apologize. I shouldn't have said that.
Directly impacted because you don't really know people's books, right? You can't see who's where and who's what. I was reading something that there's a...
I shouldn't have said it. I'm sorry. That's what I said at the time. And I really try not to do that anymore.
Like kind of systemically risky positions that they're underwater on, so I'm following that.
Pedro is great.
So short answer is I haven't got enough information on it yet to make to give you an educated response.
Pedro is great.
Thanks, Pedro.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Pedro. Let's go to 100 and then Sean. 100. You have the mic.
Hi. Okay.
Just pretend I said it in quotes.
My shoes for a second, and I want you to pretend that you didn't know me and I'm speaking for the first time. And I just wanted to say,
is this 100?
Pedro and Avid, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your invaluable experience and knowledge. I'm very grateful for it. Even as a seasoned trader, I just wanted to say thank you to both of you because I know that you're fighting the good fight and you're doing your best and putting your best efforts forward. But I just wanted to say thank you.
Who's talking?
To you, just as a fellow
Yeah,
trader.
100. 100's great.
You're welcome.
And I also wanted to thank Savvy and Busy, in particular, for creating this platform and really growing the relationships that are required to bring this fight forward.
100 is great.
It's, without you guys joining forces in the way that you gel, it would be very difficult to mass this
Have a
amount
bag
of
of
people
chips.
coming together. And I also like to thank William and Ham for leveraging their relationships and bringing all these individuals into the community to expand that impact. It's so important that these relationships stay intact, and it is of my opinion that as these judgments
Have a bag of chips, Mike.
become
Big league. He says big league.
can be leveraged.
Am I short GTII
Since
big
today was
league?
a very, very important day. You could add it to a list of accomplishments.
Have you
that were
been
made in the
listing?
last few months. And I just wanted to take this time and recognize that, and recognize the people that are involved. And I'm sure there's a lot more that I'm not mentioning. And also one more thing, I'd like to give a shout out to Curtis and all the hard work. And I know it's the DD crew included, but I want to give him a shout out because he built a pretty strong response.
You know, people that swear are supposed to be more intelligent than people that don't.
It was the seed
Mate.
that needed to grow, and it has
The end of
grown,
the day.
and it's
It's the end of the day, isn't
as
it?
a response to
Isn't
Finner
it?
putting them on blast, and letting the world know that we are here to stay and we're here to grow and make sure that that we're making a difference here, one day at a time, and that's the way it is. So,
Well, Brad, I think everyone's
thank you
been
for that.
fighting
And,
so hard.
Anna, obviously going to Congress and doing what you do, and Drew.
All right,
and all
6
that.
o'clock. I might hang up.
And Theo's been unbelievable behind the scenes, putting DDs together. I just wanted you to know, from outside my shoes, thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Hey, 100. I do got to piggyback on what you said, but also what Savvy said, Andrew said. I mean, we are growing, right? But, I tell my wife all the time, the man upstairs put me in this position for something.
I like that.
Something I believe it was just
I
right
like that.
alongside in the trenches. But
I agree with
I just want to
him.
give a huge shout out to Marduk. Because if Marduk wouldn't have gave me the chance to even co-host, I wouldn't be even in this position of hosting spaces. I didn't know anything about, hosting spaces.
And
shout out
Marduk
to
is
Ward
good
was because
too.
I just took his blueprint and started
Oh,
co-hosting
Lordy.
alongside
This
with
sounds
Marduk.
like,
He just,
this is like at
blueprinting
the
what
Academy Awards.
what Oracles was doing. But again, like Drew said, we're just growing and we just keep on growing. And I believe that all of these connections that not only am I making, but we all are making, right? We just had a Bloomberg's a journalist on the call. We just got to continue fighting and growing and growing and growing. And eventually, we're just going to either make
He's
change
done a
or
lot of
change,
hard
or we're just
work.
going to be too loud. I mean, like Drew said, our spaces are growing so much that we're pretty much, hovering around 1,000, around 800. Not yesterday was 950. Today was 1,400. So we're getting louder every single day. And shout outs to again Ham, Avid, William, Frank Benedetto, everybody in Pedro, everybody that has come into the spaces.
IAC, thank you.
My apologies, but these are people that are continuing, even though they're not shareholders, they continue to fight. I mean, we said that you're not a shareholder, including you, 100. I know you gave a shout out to everybody, but I mean, shout out to you.
100's great.
I know that you're now a shareholder, but again, I want to give you.
All right, so I have to call,
actually, came into the space
but
and helped this community.
I don't want to end up coming off this.
With that, I'm going to go ahead and send it to. Let's go to Sean. You have the mic.
Thanks, Billy. And I can't really say much more than what you guys have already to thank everybody. I want to thank Junk for making mention of Retail United and that effort, but as a whole, guys, like these guys are saying, right?
There's that's funny.
I just posted in
But
the comments here.
22 daisies, you might be brilliant
Give me a second.
if you're not drinking.
With the
Just kidding,
impression
just
tracking,
kidding.
It's back up to 2.4 billion. And like
Enjoy
I mentioned
alcohol.
In the last two spaces in the morning, that doesn't account for a majority of what we're doing here on Twitter, because Twitter changed the API, so a lot of these social media trackers are lagging.
That's a good, that's a good,
But 2.8
good
billion
idea.
is almost back to where we were before I had to reset that. So if we, take a little bit off the top and combine those two.
Jack Mehoff, I think, is the guy.
3.8 to 4 billion worth of impressions.
Is he
since
the
November.
guy
And
that
that started
the
from,
lobbyist?
Like, saying with the Marduk and syntax space with getting FINRA fraud hashtag
The
trending, and look where we've come now. Months later, like 100's saying with his, he tracks that the accomplishments that we've had so far in the 4 to 5 month range. It's unbelievable. And if we don't, like we said earlier, Junk in your
all right,
space,
Jenny,
if we don't
Rebecca.
stop, we'll be able to make change. Because if we let up,
Thank you
they'll
for
find a way
everything.
to,
I'll make sure
change
that
the
all
rules.
gets
So I
forwarded.
just can't thank everybody here enough.
And I'm glad you're
everybody
feeling
for what they're
better.
doing, and I hope you all join us to continue the fight.
We'll go walk, Lucky. Don't look so sad. Don't look
Thank you, Sean.
so
Let's go
sad.
back to
I know
let's
it's over.
You got the mic.
Let's just be glad we had this time
I am. I'm
to
not.
spend together.
No, a little bit, but go ahead. You have the mic. You were trying to connect, so I had to drop you down and bring you back. So thanks, Sean, for that. I was kind of distracted over here, but go ahead, Huck. You have the mic.
No, you're okay. Hey,
Watch
so
the
I had
bridges
this kind of comedic
that we're
situation unfold
burning.
a little bit earlier today. So this is the first I'll bring the announcement to the whole space. If you know something I've been working on in the background is getting a Wikipedia article
On
regarding
my
MMTLP.
pillow.
And as of right now, I have to tell you guys, it is not going to happen.
And
At least not right this second, and through the sources that we were using.
Close to mine.
Essentially, with Wikipedia, they audit
Hear
your
the
sources and they look at
whispers
where your information has come
of the
from and whether or not
raindrops
it can be legitimized.
as they
And so
fall
I used all sources
against
that
the
either came
window.
from,
And make believe
relations
you still
DC
love
FINRA.
me.
And they disqualified
One
all
more
of my sources.
time
Is that
for the good
if it came from a journalist
time.
article, like Market Watch or Yahoo Finance,
I don't know.
or
I
things,
think
that it was considered journalistic and it wouldn't count. If it came from metamaterials, it was considered biased and wouldn't count.
Hey, Dos
And this
Equis.
is the best one. Is if it came from FINRA or the SEC, it was considered unreliable and marked as probably fraudulent.
I think I have to leave this call. So we're on a mission from God.
I might not be able to hear someone that's speaking, so I apologize for that. But
We're on a mission from God. We are the Blues Brothers.
You're good, Huck. If you were done speaking, I could go ahead to the next hand.
No, I
go ahead. That's,
really quick.
that's the unfortunate news I had to report.
I just think we were all in the middle of a belly laugh, Huckleberry. Yeah, that's
All right,
that's
so-
quite the irony right there.
So guys, I'm gonna
sad
go
news
walk
that we're
my
not gonna
dog
get it, but,
and end the call
Yeah,
because
that's ironic, isn't it?
there's not much more here, I don't think. But
I'm fighting for a refund on the monies that we've.
let me just
paid
turn
into
this
the
down.
writers and the
Um,
that have worked on it.
What I heard today from Patrick Byrne
If I can get that money back,
was
I'll put 100% of it towards the retailing next step. So I'll be fighting to
honest.
as soon as I do.
I think it's a difficult road to go down the path of journalists, Congress, regulators, all of it. But remember, in the case of GTII,
Okay, guys. Can anybody hear me? Thumbs up?
I can hear you.
Yeah, we hear you. Huck's just
we
having
hear
connection
you.
problems.
Okay, good. All right. Abbott, I know you wanted to chime in here. There's one more hand. You're more than welcome to.
Yeah, Mehoff was
I
lobbyist.
was listening in on
So
everything that was going on, so I apologize for not being as active on here.
I'll
I
get a
definitely took it
camera
all in.
for
I was
Lucky
certainly
snoring.
listening throughout it all, but no, yeah,
Have
just
to
wanted
learn how to
talk
do
about
that,
Busy
though.
said a little while back. It was not too long ago, but this is just incredible to see the audience retention here. Still 900 people, 1,000, 1,200 people were like in after Patrick
audience
left.
this,
Like,
pal.
mostly everyone stayed on, which is just
I
incredible.
don't get
mean,
those
really,
numbers.
The
I
impact
think
that we're having is
I might have
amazing.
had 1,000 on one
that's
call
why I try and be very selective
when
about the people that I talk with and the people that I surround myself with. I always want to make sure I have good company. I love bringing Pedro up here because he always has great input to offer.
Pedro's great.
Like 100, Curtis. There's a lot of guys that I give credit
Pedro's
to, and
great.
that's what it's all about. Having people that can articulate well, that have experience. You know, some of these guys that we're talking with, whether it's Ham or even, you know, Pedro, they have more experience in the field and have been in the markets longer.
What I want to just say is, I think he fought a really hard fight. He made a settlement. He got knocked down, but it sounds like Patrick still has the fight in him. I personally think that the election is, can you believe it? Probably the fake ballots, the election cheating, the impossibility of Joe Biden actually having won the election.
If it wasn't for him, I don't truly believe I would have a platform or
Ham,
voice here,
yeah.
Ham as well. But you know, just how much he's done and how much he's uncovered, and for him to
anyway,
now
so
sit there and come on and listen
so
to us and
I think the election, honest elections, might be more important than settlement, but not much more important. So I heard some positive things. What I want you to focus on, at least in the stocks that Ham is involved in,
I just want to, you know, say that, and I think it's
is,
a real powerful tool, a real
and a couple of others that are following the playbook, because it's a simple playbook.
It takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, and I was,
That's
you know, behind the scenes,
GTII Finger, and I also think Go Logic, too, but Go Logic has the potential for a squeeze soon. So anyway, I think the way to get these bastards, and that's, is that a bad word? Anyway, the way to get these malfactors, these malfeasors, these malcontents, these perps, is to get their money, take their money. And that's what I think these 2 or 3 or 4 companies that we're focused on are going to do. So.
It deserves an applause, and I just wanted to say that, especially with the MMTLP community, just educating myself as well. You know, I didn't know much about the situation at all, and at first I really didn't take it.
Brad Dietz, Patrick said they are fighting an impossible fight, politely declined
just my little input
the request to join them and ask for their voice in the 2000. They've been celebrating ever since. Yeah, there's an aspect to that.
Are going to continue to get really, really awesome. So appreciate it, Busy and everyone. William,
all right.
I know I said this before earlier, but I just wanted to say it again because you guys truly do deserve it, and the work certainly doesn't go unnoticed on my end. I've really been feeling that, you know, the past few days and weeks as we see, you know, every single time I log onto Twitter, it's, you know, 300-400 people in a space talking about, you know, news updates, and it's like you got your
all right,
own
so
community, your own little news.
I'm going to say to Wolfie, good night, mate.
What's the next step, and what's the progress?
You know, Wolfie,
here with Mark and
where you're from,
and the legal aspect. I mean, there's just
at
so
the end
many
of the day,
moving parts,
it's the end of the day.
You to do this like a
you know what I
full-time
mean,
job,
mate?
you know, I don't think people appreciate it
You know
as
what I mean?
much for the effort that you're putting in.
You
like
all
you
right?
said, day after day,
I
hour
can't
after
wait to
hour,
get back to London.
Really deserves a round of applause.
I can't wait to get back to London.
Thank you guys for always, you know, having me.
All right, so I'm going to say goodnight if I can, and then I'm going to leave this going so they think I'm still paying attention, but I've got to call Ham, and I have to use this.
Let me just give you an example. Right now, there was another CEO that just followed me, and he wants to join into a space call. That's what I want to touch on also, because there's the many CEOs that have came into our spaces. Okay, so now not only do you have other tickers joining the fight, but you also have these CEOs actually join the space call and be.
All right, so yes, cheers, mate, to everybody. Cheers. So peace, love, and happiness, as I always say. Cheers, as I often say, and. Just remember, tomorrow the birds shall sing, and we'll catch you on the flip side.